Great, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Kimberly, can you do a roll call for me, please?
Karen Anderson.
Here.
Tammy Hines.
Here.
John Long.
Here.
Greg Meyer.
Here.
Scott Middlecamp.
Here.
Greg O'Connor.
Here.
Lisa Schumacher.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum. We're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to say welcome to your visitors. It looks a little different than when we used to get together and be able to sit close together, but hopefully this works out for everybody. I also wanted to start off by saying tonight there is a plan, and we're going to discuss plans and different options and things like that on back to school for our students, all of our students, and in some form or another, if so desired. So I know a lot of folks are here to talk about that, and hopefully with knowing that, we welcome your comments and things like that, but we just want to make sure that you understand that's what we're here for tonight. A little bit of ground rules for the folks that are addressing the board. Each person is going to receive 3 minutes for public comments in order to give the maximum number of people an opportunity to speak, and I think we've maxed out our chairs in here, right? Pretty much. I think we have a few public comments that came in that Dr. Castelli is going to address for us as well. Traditionally, our public comments are limited to a total of 15 minutes per meeting, but since we recognize this is a pretty hot topic, we will discuss those things. What I would like to do, though, is if you have the same comment as somebody else, or if you have a spokesperson for a group that you're here for, that you have that spokesperson speak, just in the interest of time and to hear everybody's opinions on this matter. And I don't believe we have anybody else waiting outside, do we? Doesn't look.
You want me to check?
No, I think we have everybody. We were thinking we might have more than our allotted number of folks we were able to have in here, so we were going to ask folks to leave after they make their comments so other folks can come in, but it sounds like there's nobody outside waiting at this point. So let's go ahead and get started. Do you want to go ahead with yours?
Yep, I have a few people to call, some to read, and then we can move to the other public comments. So I'll do the phone calls first.
Yes.
Hello.
Mrs. Wheatley? This is Courtney Castelli with the Columbia Schools, and I have you down as wishing to address the board. We have started our board meeting public comments, and you have the board's attention if you would like to make a comment.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And Mrs. Wheatley, can
Okay.
you just ask them to say their names?
Oh, yeah,
for the
can you just
record?
say your name for the record, and then we do have a 3-minute time limit.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm Jessica Wheatley. And first I want to say that the teachers have done such a phenomenal job with this remote learning. We're really impressed with it. Obviously, I think the goal for everyone is to get the kids back in school. I am also a teacher myself. And I think, one, I would love the kids back, and again, I think we all know that. But I just hope that you'll consider giving the teachers the time they need to teach remotely. I know that was a big thing with our district, and so they just really need that time. It takes a lot of time and effort. So that's my main comment.
Okay. All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Bye-bye. Mr. Masick?
Yes.
This is Courtney Castelli with Columbia Schools. I have you down as wanting to address the board this evening.
That's correct.
Okay, and what I need for you to do is just before you start your statement is just state your name for the record and that we do have a 3-minute time limit.
Okay.
Okay?
Good.
You are free to start.
Okay, great. My name is Michael Masick. I'm the father of Emma Masick, who is in the 3rd grade, and her teacher is Mrs. Boyles. First of all, bottom line up front is we would like continued e-learning option for our daughter in the 3rd grade. One, I'm at high risk. There is yet to be an example where any school or workplace has been capable of stifling COVID ahead of a vaccine or are taking measures to ensure 100% safety from people in those spaces. 2, schools that have tried to return inevitably have had to quarantine students, thus making the environment inconsistent and confusing. We are very happy with the experience, material, and recent increase in workload, and I wanted to say a special thank you to Ms. Boyles and the other 3rd grade teachers for doing such a fine job. Absent are typical in-school distractions. My daughter is fully engaged, focused, and takes her learning to the next level by replicating her science experiments at home. And honestly, it's a rare privilege to be so in tune with her learning as a parent and be a part of that experience in both science, physical education, reading, etc. My work, I currently work for the Department of Defense, and we have yet to return to business as usual because the science and the numbers do not suggest it is safe to do so. They're proceeding with caution, as we would expect every workplace or school to do the same. We know the teachers and the administration are doing the best they can with the information they have, so we ask that you stay consistent and committed to your decision. It makes sense to reevaluate every 9 weeks, but stick with the plan. Frankly, we're appalled that the people within this community have campaigned or rallied to bully the administration to return to school when a decision has already been made. We ask that you do what is right, what is safe, and what is consistent. We fully support you, and we are very happy with the experience. You've gone the effort to bring us home the technology. It's working well, and the teachers are expanding workload. We couldn't honestly ask for anything more. That's all I have to say. Again, we just ask that you at least continue an option to have an e-learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Hello?
Mrs. Haven, this is Courtney Castelli with Columbia Schools.
Hi.
Hi, I am calling because you expressed interest in addressing the board during the meeting in public comments.
Yes, please.
Okay, and just for procedurals, before you start, state your name for the record and that we do have a 3-minute time period. So whenever you're ready, the board is listening.
Okay. My name is Michelle Haven. I have a 1st grader in the district, and I'm just going to pose all of my questions, and you guys can address them at will. I am first wondering what has changed since the option that we had as hybrid moved to remote when we were at 4% positivity. We're currently at 11, and we're ready just to thrust them all back into school. It doesn't seem safe. I'm also wondering what precautions, what mandates will be in place to make sure the spread doesn't go any further than one classroom or one school. Will the whole class then be given their 2 weeks, and will they be excused absences? How did we get from we had 9 weeks to have to go through this again to here we are at 4 where we're back to square one when the kids are finding their groove and the teachers are doing amazing and it has everybody moving forward on a good trajectory, and then now we're going to go back to square one, and then you're going to put the kids back in school and then have 2 weeks of learning the rules, learning to walk in a line, learning how the schedule works. Are the remote learners then going to be held back not learning because the kids in class then are having to do other things? And my last question is, how will remote learning work moving forward? How long will it be offered? How will the teachers be given time to do in-class and remote learning? How will the education be kept up on remote learning? Because we're obviously going to choose remote. That's our family. So all of those questions laid out there. I'm happy to have more, have feedback, but I have 3 minutes, so.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, and then I have to read a statement. Oh, I have to, did I get everybody? No, that's it. Okay, the statement is from Charles James Jr. And it says, Dear Board of Education, first I want to express our family's appreciation for Dr. Castelli, Mr. Grody, the administration, and especially the teachers for having worked so hard to make remote learning work. We feel they have done an amazing job under intense pressure and stress. Thank you very much for that effort. I'm sure it was a grueling non-summer. Both of my parents were educators, so I understand the vitriol with which you are being met. I also have what I feel is a unique perspective on this. My father, Charles James Sr., spent 9 years on the Lindbergh School District Board. He was president of the district for 2 of these years in the early 80s. He presided as busing, middle, and elementary school closures were being decided and implemented. We were chased out of our house on 3 occasions due to bomb threats. Our driveway was spray painted with misspelled racial epithets. We are not intimidated. Scared, perhaps. My dad voted for busing. He and his fellow board members voted based on what they thought was right at the time. They did not let the mob win. I implore you to take the same stand. Don't let the mob win. In my view, representative democracy is not intended for elected officials to, quote, do what we say. We elect representatives to make decisions based on their experience and value set. This whole argument that you have to do what people say is ridiculous. The remedy for disapproval is the next election. We cannot operate in an environment where those who yell most loudly are rewarded. We are dismayed that an emergency board meeting has been called due to bullying and shrill parents. We are angry that our teachers are being so mistreated. There is no scientific or evidence-based reason to reopen schools right now. Indeed, all public health measures are much worse than last spring. All data and actual scientists, not armchair epidemiologists who feel a certain way, are predicting a bad fall and winter. This reopening conversation is based on emotion, not data or science. The outcome is entirely predictable. We made the right decision to close for 9 weeks. Please do not alter that plan. Vacillation is a core modus operandi for any organization. It is one thing to change course based upon new information, none of which support reopening right now. Vacillation to appease the mob is unworkable. Thank you for your consideration. We hope you do the right thing and don't let the mob win. Please feel free to share my comments openly. That's all I have for.
Great. Did we have let's see, who would like to address the board next? What I'd like to do is just something that I did not say at the beginning. If you have specific instances for a child or a teacher, please don't bring those to the board at this time. This is a public meeting. We don't need any children's names or anything like that. So yes, ma'am.
This is Acock.
Yeah.
Has to go first. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I give a lot of thought before I
I'm sorry,
came here.
I got to start with your name.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm Jackie Acock.
Thank you.
I'm a lifelong Columbian, and my kids and grandkids went to the school system, and I have a granddaughter who's a junior in high school. And the reason I came to talk to you this evening is because I appreciate all that you've done, but I'd like to give you a perspective that perhaps no one in this room has. I was educated in the system, in the school in Columbia, and I'm an RN. In addition to being an RN, I'm a nurse educator. Over the past 30 years, I've taught on campus, online, and hybrid courses. And I'd like to give you my opinion from my perspective as an educator who's done all 3. I recently resigned from Central Methodist University when they decided to go from hybrid to all virtual. My observations, now remember, I'm dealing with adult learners. Supposedly high school kids are adult learners, but we don't really know about that. But what I've discovered is that online is not for everyone. There's a breakdown many times of teacher-student relationship, or in the case of a college professor, sometimes it's very difficult to establish it in the first place. Good students will always do well, no matter what system you utilize. The students that have a problem are the C students, or the students who are having difficulty. Many times these kids fall through the cracks and disengage forever. Students, when given a choice, would at least choose the hybrid, as it gives them some of each. I cannot imagine how these wonderful teachers are able to teach kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade. I mean, it's amazing to me. One of the things that spurred me on is, I told you I'm an RN. I haven't practiced clinically for 8 years. I've been teaching almost exclusively. But I got from one of my nursing magazines, they questioned infection control nurses and members of the CDC who had children. It was a very small study. They only used 10 people, but 50% of them said, given the opportunity, they would send their children to school. And these are healthcare professionals who very well know the ins and outs of COVID. I'm asking you, after this 9 weeks, to bring these kids back to school. Parents aren't nurses. Parents aren't teachers. As much as we want to be, we are not. Take precautions and go with the hybrid model that you had planned on originally. Get the kids and families involved. Let them choose. As healthcare workers, they can make that decision. You can protect yourself and protect your teachers. We do it all the time. I come from a family of healthcare workers, okay? Lastly, am I done?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you, Ms. Acock.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jessica Ray.
You go with it.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide public comments tonight. My name is Jessica Ray, and I'm a parent in the district. I'd first like to express my appreciation to the board, to district administration, and to the staff for your leadership as we've embarked on this school year. While last month may not have been a time to be a pioneer for a strategy for in-person learning, we do have new information, and I now have confidence in this board and our administration that we can be fast followers, learning from the best practices of other schools in our region. I'm sharing this. We can talk a lot about how hard it is for all of us as adults, whether it be parents, staff, administrators, everybody is doing double duty. It's hard. And the kids are not here to give their voice. So I'm, as an advocate for my 2 children, going to share their feelings since they couldn't be here this evening. My 9-year-old is receiving asynchronous instruction. The staff, the administration has been fantastic and very responsive. But she has struggled with the online platform and Google Classroom, as have I. Somehow with the MBA, I still can't figure out how to tell what's due each week. Virtual learning is not compatible with her learning style. And my normally happy-go-lucky kid is in tears at least 2 to 3 times per week. Her grades are poor this year, and she routinely cries at night and tells me, "Mom, I am a failure. I'm a failure at e-learning." My 11-year-old is receiving synchronous instruction. The screens for remote learning are the size of an iPad. She's an excellent worker, but by the end of the day, when we're viewing multiple students, they're about the size of your thumb. And she, at the end of the day, has a headache and has eye strain, like I've heard from some others, just from looking at that screen just sitting there, isolated. wearing earbuds for 5 hours straight before she starts to do homework and sits longer and looks at that screen even longer. Both kids are anxious about the technology challenges of remote learning. The leadership group to endorse a strategy that gets these kids in school for the maximum number of hours and days possible. I believe in this administration and that the board will support this administration to offer that option for our children, to support their academic development and opportunity for success. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Wright.
Amy Goumasheimer.
Hi, my name is Amy Goumasheimer, and I think I have the exact same goal of everyone here in this room. My goal is simply to have my children receive the best possible education. This asynchronous learning is not conducive to providing the best education for our children. Studies show that the disadvantages of this learning are it lacks instant feedback. It lacks personal interaction. There is no live collaboration in real-time activities. It can cause a lack of motivation, as we heard from another parent. It also requires self-discipline, something that a child underneath the age of 10, I find that personally very hard to instill that when they haven't been taught that and they're not at the level where that they can have that self-discipline to do it entirely on their own. As a parent, I would like to support all of these teachers that are behind me and also help my children learn the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, to the best of their abilities. But what I'm finding is that with a lack of books, advance notice of any of the curriculum, and no one-stop location to find my children's homework is resulting in additional stress on my 2 children. I'm doing my normal working job and trying to support these teachers along with my kids. But we need a better system of delivering the homework. Provide us with
30
one
seconds.
single list of links, to-dos, and supporting materials. The amount of people who showed up here tonight is indicative how supportive our Columbia parents of their children's education. We need to know in advance what the children are being taught so that we can help them. I've asked the principal and the superintendent why our 5th grade students do not have textbooks and only reading novels, and I'm told that they're only available, or they're not available due to changes in Common Core math. So my question for the board is, if this is indeed the case, why did they have an online math textbook last year in 4th grade? And in closing, I'm asking that us as parents are provided with advance notice of the assignments and what the teachers are teaching our children, along with all list of links all on one page to make it easier on us as working parents to be able to help support our teachers and staff.
Thank you.
Mark Hansen.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Mark Jansen. I have 2 children in the school district, and thanks again for this opportunity. I'm here to advocate for in-person learning as quickly as the board and administration sees fit, and as much as you guys see fit. I'm also assistant superintendent in Freeburg, and we've been remote learning for over the past month, and it's gone very well. Yes, there were some bumps in the road in the beginning, but over the last few weeks, knock on wood, we've been going pretty well. We're in a group and things are going very well. It can be done, and we're doing it right now. And the second thing is that I would like to say is should the board and the administration recommend going back in person, my plea is to parents. We have to keep in mind as parents, previously we would send our child to school if he or she had a runny nose, a headache, fever. We can't do that anymore. So as parents, we have to be vigilant with our kids' health, And if they wake up in the morning and they're not feeling well, we have to keep them home. And we have to do the right thing with that. We all know how valuable in-person learning is. That's why we're here. That's what we're going after. But in order to keep that going, parents have to do their part as well. We're in this together. So, in closing, thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you, board, for what you're going through right now. It's not easy. I know it's not. And administration, thank you all for what you've done for our kids over these past few months and what you continue to do every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansen.
Margaret Rudolph. Thanks. Hi, thank you, board members, for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Margaret Rudolph. And I guess before I get to my comments, we've already heard parents and commenters talk about the negative emotional impacts and the technical difficulties of remote learning for the average students. And I'm here to speak about IEP students. So students who have additional challenges in their learning experience. And I have a great deal of insight into the needs of IEP students. I am the mother of 2 IEP students here in the Columbia District, and I've worked as a substitute teacher here in CUSD for 8 years. And I've been involved in my children's education in Columbia from the beginning. I've been a partner with the special education team from the moment my children have entered the district. Sorry, I do find it difficult to speak through this. So in any case, I consider myself a key partner with the teachers and the administration, and I believe I've developed some very productive and helpful relationships over the years through those means. So I see how important it is for IEP students to receive the patient assistance in a structured environment to ensure their academic success and progress. And from the beginning, as a less than 5-day week has been contemplated, I've had discussions with board members as well as leading administration officials to ensure that IEP students have their needs met in this unusual time. And IEP students, including teens, need the guidance from the special education team to prioritize and manage their workload, as well as to receive guidance and understanding the material so that they may complete assignments and perform well on tests. It is difficult via the fully remote learning for IEP students to understand and complete assignments, especially according to teacher expectations. They might miss some details, and we've experienced that ourselves. Parents must work with their children each evening after we do our own jobs and over the weekends to meet expectations. And we must consult Google Classroom at 7 classes a day for high school. And we check with Skyward to determine daily and missing assignments. And under these situations, IEP students run a risk of amassing a growing list of missing assignments over time. Now, the special education team at CHS have made themselves available to IEP students via Google Meets, and I've been very appreciative of their efforts. And there's only so much they can do. Okay, under the situation. So we are all very appreciative. The problem is that what they're able to do is not enough for IEP students. And I favor a return to the classroom for IEP students in particular, where they can receive hopefully daily help. And Columbia's children have only one shot at obtaining the foundations for productive adulthood. And we shouldn't let this year go to waste, especially for IEP students who will have few opportunities after their K-12 education to receive the tools they need for adulthood. Thank you.
Kelly Antelek.
Hello, my name is Kelly Antelek. I have 2 children in the district, one in 5th grade, one a sophomore in high school. And I'm here to give my vote, if you will, for in-person learning. At the beginning of registration, there was an option for in-person and remote learning. And so if the options were given to the parents, those who selected remote learning should be happy, and I don't understand why in-person was then taken away from the other parents, especially if masks work. Kids, at least my kids, are completing assignments for completion versus comprehension. As a parent, I have my fifth grader who I have to hold his hand every step of the way or he would be failing. Parents are doing most of the work, and I'm not a teacher. I don't have a teaching degree. I don't know what I'm doing it. I'm just winging it with him. But I can tell you that he has a lot of anxiety. He feels like he's a failure. We have meltdowns multiple times a day because he doesn't have the computer training or the knowledge to navigate the system. Most 10-year-olds don't know what a hyperlink is. They don't know how to create a slideshow. They don't know about checking emails daily. And emails should not replace direct teacher-student communication. And we constantly have tech issues at our home. It's just causing a ton of anxiety in our home. And I feel like it's debilitating to these kids. This is their building blocks for future learning, and they're not getting that. I have a document if I can submit it. There's more on here. Just that in 3 minutes.
You're doing fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kate Bailey. Hello, my name's Kate Bailey. I think I know most. I'm here to advocate for in-person learning. I'm a normal parent. I have a lot of people I've discussed this with. We're in the trenches every single day. I'm so glad the board meeting was held today after a day of e-learning. It's brutal. The teachers are doing a great job. I don't have a problem with that. I come from a teacher that's retired from the school district. We're struggling as a district. You want me to send these kids to college one day and we are behind? It's been how many months now? I need to get them in. They got to see their teachers. They don't have a social group that they talk to anymore. They're in their rooms for about 5 to 6 hours. The only one they talk to is me, and they don't want to talk to me. I'm mom. They don't want to listen to me either, and I just need some direction from the school board. You guys are doing a great job, but I need in-person learning. Thanks.
Heidi Sanders.
Hello, I'm Heidi Sanders, and I have a child that is a freshman at Columbia High School. And there's been many good points made, and just a few things I would like to add to the thought process of this big decision. As a freshman and sophomore in high school, your classes and your grades are the foundation for your junior year to apply to high school or to apply to college, to get the ACT and SAT scores you need for scholarships. There's so many things that are affected. And I feel that the parents that don't want their children in school are having that option, but us parents that want the kids present are not having that voice. And I would love to see that opportunity given to my son. And I can tell you, I've been working throughout this whole pandemic, and I've not once got sick. And I meet with individuals constantly, daily. So I feel there is a legitimate concern, but I do feel it is possible to have a healthy school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Gorman.
Doesn't have a teacher reading that.
Sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Gorman, and I have a kindergartner in the school district. I also have a 5th grader in the school district. I'm a graduate of Columbia High School, K through, graduated from Columbia High School. My parents were both teachers in the school district, and my dad retired as a teacher in the district. I'm also the director and owner of Creative Kids Incorporated in Columbia, and we were mandated to close as well. We are a school for young children, and we have been reopened since June 8th, and we have had absolutely 0 issues. We have about 70 students, and we have had absolutely no issues at all. I do understand that they are younger children, they're ages 2 through 6, so I understand that young children this doesn't affect usually as often, but I did want to address that we have been open and been doing fine as a school. My child, my son is 5 and the same age as some of the kids. He'll be 6 in October. And he has been struggling. Kindergarten is hard. The teachers have done an amazing job, but kindergarten is just it's very difficult to really bond with children and have them do fine motor lessons and learn and really be motivated to be excited to please the teacher. Kids that age, they love their teachers, right? And they need that feedback, you know, in person. So if we could have a hybrid option, that would be amazing. If we could go back more than 2 days a week, I would be in favor of that as well, since we are doing school across town 5 days a week. I do understand that if remote is still happening, that they would need time to plan as well. So Fridays, if they need to plan, I understand that as well. So anyway, I have other things I'd like to discuss with the school board at a later time, but we can do that at the next school board meeting. But I am in favor, and my daughter who's in 5th grade, she's a great student, straight A student. However, I have also heard her say she's a failure at this. So, I have never heard those words come out of her mouth, and it's very disturbing. She misses her friends, she misses the social aspects for sure. And you just can't compete with in person. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Jeremy Lane.
My name is Jeremy Lane. We moved here about 12 years ago for the school district. We wanted our kids to grow up in a public school. The actions and the decisions that you guys have made me regret that decision. I've called every private school. They have waiting lists now. If McDonald's is open and every other business is open, there's no reason why these kids can't be in school 5 days a week. I work in steel. I'm deemed essential. I don't save lives. I don't do anything. I make stuff out of steel. I've never got to stay home from work. My kids are bounced between sitters and anybody I can find so that they can be taken care of while I'm at work. Open the schools up. This is ridiculous. That's all I got to say.
Nicholas Helfrey.
I'm Nicholas Elfridge, and I have a daughter that's in eighth grade here, and I went through the Columbia school system from kindergarten through 8th grade. My dad went to school here, and my grandpa lived here as well. So I've been in Columbia my whole life, and my daughter is very self-motivated and is doing a really good job on the online, and the teachers are great, but she is certainly lacking the social aspect. And really, as far as going into the workforce, the most important skill that I obtained from going through school was certainly the social interaction with people, also finding your groups of friends, finding like people with similar interests. And she is really, has become, definitely there's been, become a recluse in some sense. And I thought there was a problem before this all happened. Definitely interesting time this is. But before that, I was, had to monitor, phone time and TV, and video game time and wanting her to interact more. But this is really like, what you can't really tell your kid to get rid of your phone or put down your phone, because what else are they going to do? They can't really meet or hang out with people. So I'm thinking they're missing out on a very, very important job skill that's going to really start carrying over for the rest of their lives if they don't start interacting even at this age, especially when you're talking about seniors and juniors and seniors in high school. They really need that interaction. And I would say the majority of people, and at least the people I talk to, were really just, for the facts that we see, we're not afraid. If the worst case scenario that you did have a situation, we would not blame the school board. The majority of parents that have chosen to let their kid go to school, and if there was a situation that their kid got sick, we would not blame you, because we fully accept the responsibility. I just want you, I believe that's all I have to say.
Chris Coulter.
Got some notes for y'all tonight, so get your pens ready. A little bit about myself. My name is Chris Poulter. My dad was a school board president at Columbia District back in the 80s or 90s. I served on a school board in O'Fallon District 9 myself. Obviously, we didn't have to deal with anything you guys are dealing with now, and I understand the importance of health and safety and things like that. But I want you all to take down this, I want you to look at the cdc.gov website and look at an article written in July, Importance of Reopening Schools. What that discusses is basically kids don't get sick. Kids are asymptomatic. They might bring it home to me, but that's my fault. If I'm not taking PPEs, prescribed things at home, wearing a mask, wash my hands, which everybody advised to do anyway, that's just good hygiene. The school doesn't take it, like he said, there's no liability on you guys. People have jobs, they have to have, our kids have to go to school, so people go to work. It's just ridiculously destructive to the child. I mean, the kids have to be there for their social groups, for their emotional connections. They don't get that at home. I mean, we obviously have an emotional connection with my daughter and my son, but they miss their friends. And then, like somebody noted, they go out anyway. They're going to McDonald's, going to Walmart, wherever these other essential businesses are, and they're hanging out with them down there or walking around town, no mask on, and still, I have the stats that I pulled right from Monroe County. Population estimated 2020 for Columbia, 10,550 individuals. COVID tested 1,755 of our citizens, right? Out of that 1,755, 235 tested positive for COVID. That's a positivity rate for Columbia itself of 2.23. So I don't know if the gentleman on the phone is calling us a mob or whatever, but I look at statistics, and I pulled these off of the websites of the government. So if I'm a mob spewing, we all got a problem. If you look at influenza B, which the death rate, and this isn't a positivity, a death rate for flu B, right? Every year, children die at a rate of 6.9%. Do we shut down the schools or the business for that? No. Why are we doing it now? I implore you guys to open up the schools, send the kids to school 5 days a week, normal hours, and nobody will be held accountable, at least on mine. Mark my name, I'm Chris Poulter. I will not hold you accountable if my child gets sick. But you need to help this community out. You're part of the solution, really. It's not a problem, you're part of the solution. Fix it. You guys have the power to do it. If you don't, who's ever up to 2021, there's going to be people coming for your jobs. You guys are here to help the community, not to destroy it. And what you're doing right now with the kids in school, and the kids and the schools, is not productive in being a positive role model for this district. And I hope you guys really take a listen. Read that article. It's actually well written, and it's from the CDC, and it actually provides a lot of insight about actually what goes on with kids and stuff and how they're affected by the negative impact of closing schools. All right, thank you guys very much. Have a good vote tonight. 4-3, put them in school.
We can get those from the calendar here.
He's just talking Columbia only. He's not talking the whole county.
No, the numbers were only Columbia.
He's only Columbia numbers. What were those numbers? That's what I was
200 and something.
235 people
230.
tested positive for COVID in Columbia. 1,755 people were tested or confirmed tests. Out of the population, 10,550, if you do the positivity test, it's 2.23% for Columbia. I didn't go into depth, you want to go into depth, I can go into that.
No, I just wanted to.
Nobody under 30 died of COVID in Monroe County. One died, one person under 40 to 49, and 4 people 50 to 59 have died. Everybody else has been 60 years or older. It's not a death threat or death sentence to our teachers or our students. Please, open the schools up.
Thank you. Next up, Ashley Benzie, Ashley?
Hi. I don't have a whole lot to say other than I have a
I'm
fifth
sorry,
grader.
what?
Oh, Ashley Benzie.
Benzie?
Mhm.
Thank you.
My fifth grader, a lot of you know her. Mr. Dugan, you probably remember her. Very outgoing, great student. Everybody in all the schools she's been in has loved her, all the administration, teachers, everybody. Straight A student, never had any problem, loves school until now. She's failing. She's struggling very hard. We went camping last weekend, and people that she has met twice, she wanted us to leave her with them, so she didn't have to come back and do any more of this school. It makes me very scared for her mental health, and what the implications could all come from this. It's just a very unprecedented time. None of us know what's going on. You guys are doing as much as you possibly can. And some kids thrive on computers and they love it. She is a social butterfly. She needs that immediate reinforcement. A lot of kids do. She needs to see your face. To know what you're actually thinking, what you're meaning. She's not getting that, and it's very, very detrimental to her at this point. That's my biggest concern. If it is 5 days a week, it's 5 days a week. If it's hybrid, at least she's getting something. I know you guys are going to do whatever you can to make the best decisions that you possibly can for the whole. But it's just, as a parent of a kid, to see this big of a decline is very scary. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy.
Jen Briley? Briley?
Whatever say.
Hi, my name is Jen Briley. I am a Columbia graduate. I have 4 children, a 9th, 8th, 7th, and 5th grader. Our experience with online, I appreciate the Board of Education, everything that you've done. I appreciate all the teachers. They've been fantastic with what they've had to work with. But our experience with online has really been a struggle as far as technical difficulty. As far as distractions, we have 4 kids in the house, and there's only so many places to go, and we're trying to get them out of their bedrooms so that they are in more of a school environment, but we're struggling with where to put the kids. So they do have distractions. All 4 of them are struggling grade-wise from what they've done last year. So I really just plead to get the kids in all school, preferably every day, but at least a hybrid schedule, just for their mental health. You know, a lot of them have anxiety, and it's just really been a struggle. And I hate to see that for my kids. The fifth grader, they had sent, I guess, a worksheet for them to fill out, and she filled in, she filled in okay about this school year. She said, she was asked, I pretend. She filled in that I'm enjoying online schooling, and she's not, and it's just been really hard. So I really hope that for the kids' mental health that they can get back in school. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and thank you for all that you've done, teachers and everyone. Thank you.
Caitlin Brownberger.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Brownberger. I'm the mother of a second grader, and I just want to say that I do not envy your position as board members and as the administration right now. It's a difficult task in which you have, and I thank you for allowing us to speak and holding this special meeting tonight. I want to say that I support our teachers, and I am so incredibly proud. I'm not an educator, and I couldn't rework the wheel in 6 months and do what they have done. It's been incredible, and I'm grateful for them. Having said that, sorry, my phone doesn't recognize my face with my mask on. Also, the gentleman mentioned numbers. I also did some numbers too with Monroe County, not specifically Columbia, but Monroe County has 32,614 residents. In Monroe County, 568 positive cases have been recorded as of September 11th. Now, I'm a former theater kid, so math is not my strong suit. I tried to do the math, and what I came up with was less than 2% of residents are positive with COVID. There's been 14 deaths. That's so low to keep our students out of school, and those deaths that have occurred are in a population that doesn't affect our students. I am baffled at why the support and opening of daycares and restaurants is being touted, but the school itself, which is a fundamental pillar of our community and cultivating the social and educational development of our children, is closed. Virtual, if people want to do virtual, if liability is of concern, people have had that opportunity to choose all virtual, so that box has been checked. My question is, has there been enough time and reliable data to prove that a hybrid schedule is not a valid compromise when it comes to educating our children? No matter our views regarding COVID-19, we all agree that we want what's best for our student population. Despite everyone's best efforts, their education will suffer if we do not have at least some in-person learning. What will it take to get kids back in school for in-person instruction? What is the end game? The risks are not outweighing the benefits of the supreme importance of in-person instruction. Thank you so much, and I pray and hope that you vote in favor of letting these kids return to school.
Michelle Cope.
Hello. I have two children in the Columbia School District. A first grader.
Say your name, please.
Oh, Michelle Cope.
Cope.
C-O-P-E, Cope. I have two children in the Columbia School District. A first grader and a fourth grader. Both of them need extra help. They're both in RTI. I see my first grader come home in kindergarten. She didn't even make it all the way through kindergarten because of COVID. She comes home and struggles every day to try and get homework done. Mommy, I need help. Mommy, I need this. I'm an essential worker. I've worked through the whole pandemic. My daughter, my youngest one, struggles. My fourth grader, my oldest one, she just flies by. I have maybe an hour a night to try and help them. And on weekends, my kids do not want to sit and do 10 hours worth of homework. They're struggling so bad. Please open the schools back up. They need that one-on-one attention. They need that help. They need that extra help. These videos aren't helping them. The online learning is not helping them at all. Like, they need in-person attention. So I'm begging you, please open the schools.
Thank you, Ms. Cope.
That's everybody.
That's everybody that signed in to talk to us this evening. On to the next item on the agenda, item 4, presentation by the Columbia Education Association. Taylor, you want to turn Karen on? Or maybe not?
You're going to need to see that. So make yourself comfy. We only got about a couple hours presentation, so you don't need to get a drink or something. Just Thank you, Karen.
Got it. My name is Becky Alexander. I am a 5th grade teacher in the district, and I'm also the union president this year.
My name is Carla Wanta. I am a 2nd grade teacher, and I am union vice president.
My name is Carly Otwell. I teach Spanish at Columbia Middle School and Columbia High School, and I am the 2nd vice president of Columbia Education Association.
And I'm Carrie Clayton. I teach high school anatomy, biology, and honors biology, and I'm a high school representative.
So we wanted to start off by saying that, speaking for the teachers, we very much want kids back in the rooms. I mean, this is not anything that any of us wanted, obviously. Our concerns are that we have a safe return and that we have enough time to prepare for that safe return. So our presentation starts with time for kids. You know, there are some kids that have been out and about more than others. They might not feel as anxious as some of the kids who this change is going to affect more than others. They need more than just a week to process that they are coming back to school, and we want it to be as stress-free for them as possible in their return. Our next slide is also about time, and time for the teachers and the staff to prepare for the return. You know, in August, we thought we were coming back, and then we were told, no, you're going remote. So preparations for having students in person came to a halt so that we could prepare for that remote learning. So classrooms are not ready. We don't feel that the teachers we feel that the teachers need some time to prepare for what is essentially, if we're going to have remote and in-person students, we're going to have hybrid. Whether that's AB days or full days or whatever it is. If we have remote and we have kids in the building, we have a hybrid plan happening. So we feel that the teachers need time and the schools need time to prepare. So some of the things that we're still concerned about in regards to a safe return to school, I'm not going to read through everything on the slide, but things like addressing scheduling concerns in order to maintain proper distance and protocols so that, you know, our children can stay safe. Substitute teachers, you know, people are going to get sick. Teachers are going to get sick. My kids might get sick, and you know, we need people to be able to teach our classes if we have people there in person. So we need to have subs, and currently we, like other districts, it's not just Columbia, but we, like other places, are understaffed in regard to substitute teachers.
And not just necessarily getting COVID-19. I mean,
Correct.
You're in
This is
the
just
you're
your
gonna
days
get,
that, yeah.
You're going to get those normal kind of
Correct.
illnesses that just happen.
Correct. We do not have a full-time nurse in all of our buildings. We have 3 nurses to staff 4 buildings. And so one of our concerns is that we have one nurse, depending on, you know, what opens and how it opens. If we had one nurse to staff 2 buildings, that's a concern of ours. And having a safe quarantine area for symptomatic students. And then PPE, with masking and beyond, just there are things that we feel could make it a safer return for both teachers and students.
in terms of barriers and other more specialized PPE that can ensure a safer return to school.
Student screening, I know we talked about possibly taking temperatures, kind of screening kids prior to them coming in, or even during the day. I loved the comment that someone made about keeping their kids home if they're sick. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case all the time, so we need to be able to kind of figure out if those kiddos are sick so that we can get them kind of into a quarantine kind of space and then home. Cleaning protocols. When the kids are here, it's going to need to be cleaned more often. Custodial help is going to be needed. How does that look? You know, what do we have in place for that, for cleaning? I know at the high school where kids at, I guess, 6 through 8, where they've changed classrooms a great deal. That's a lot of cleaning. I mean, I teach second grade, so my kids are pretty much going to be in their desk at their place, and that might not need to be cleaned as much as a desk that's going to be used by 7 different children throughout the day. So cleaning protocols, what does that look like? What does it look like for teachers?
What's the cleaner? How long does it need to sit? Is it, you know, is it feasible to have identified, you know, so there's just some things that we want to be ready and prepared on before we would have children in the building.
Students enrolling, so we realize that the parents are going to be given a choice, and that choice, what they chose in August or end of July, might change. They might love their situation and they might want to stay fully remote. They might hate their situation and want to have their children come back to school, but that could change. So we're going to need some time to have parents voice what they want their children to do. So enrolling, I think, is going to take up a lot of time.
And I think with that, in making sure that parents understand the safety protocol that's going into this too, so they can make an actual decision on what's happening, so they can make a educated, informed decision on do they feel safe with their child returning. Yeah, we can do this. So something our students need, over a third of our students have never set foot in the building. Kindergarten students have never been inside this building. They don't know their way around the school at all. Second graders, they've been in this building, but they're new to, or sorry, I'm in the wrong building. Second graders have been in Eagleview, but they've never been here. Fifth graders are transitioning to middle school, which is a lot different than it is at Parkview. And then these freshmen are being put into a building with all of these upperclassmen, and they don't know their way around. They don't know the one-ways, the ups and downs, and we're expecting them to do this without any open house, no orientation, which, talking to some of my freshmen, they're very anxious about not knowing what to do when they come back. So none of our students have even been in the building in 6 months, and normally they'd see friendly faces, and now they're going to see masked faces.
Which doesn't mean they won't be friendly.
Right.
You just might not be able to see it.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd give you kind of a snapshot of why we feel teachers need the time they need. If you look at, this is for a K through 5 teacher, the hours that we are putting in as remote teachers at this time. And I'm not going to read through that, but you can see it just varies between group meets, individual meets, video creation, collaborating and planning with our other team members, getting and receiving and sending emails, and just trying to be as helpful as we can to our students on any day.
And video creation, I know it seems like it shouldn't be a huge, like, you know, a 10-minute video seems like it should take 10 minutes to record, when in reality a 10-minute video often takes 2 hours to record because you've misspoken, or there's the phone rang, or there's an echo, or that, you know, there's something that came up and you're on take 9, and that's where you're at, so.
And all of this doesn't go away when we bring kids back in. We will still have remote people who choose to have their child be remote learners. So all of this doesn't change.
We just now have added in, we have in-person kids also. Oh, and I have a beginning of work here. I can't read it, so hopefully y'all can. Just kind of outlines what our day currently looks like, and you'll notice that there's not a lot of downtime for coffee and chocolate, which was my vote, but not a lot of time in there. We are busy, and that's not having children in the classroom with us. Now, I'm not saying I don't want my kids with me, because I most certainly want them back in. I just want the board to understand that when we bring these kids back in, I have these same responsibilities for my remote kids and having in-person kids also. So it's almost like I'm giving myself 2 jobs instead of just 1 job. Some of that's going to crisscross, but the teachers will have 2 jobs. They will have to teach and get things ready for their remote learners, and they will have to get things ready and teach their in-person learners. So we gave you a little glimpse of a special ed teacher. We don't have one here tonight to speak to this, but they did create this slide for you. You can see their day is just as full, if not even more so, than a regular teacher.
And this is currently, because they are kind of in a, I guess like a hybrid kind of situation where they do have children in person and remote, so they're busy. They got a lot going on.
This is Parkview then resource, or the Parkview special ed, same situation.
Some of this applies to Eagleview too. The 2 teachers who wrote this, one is shared between buildings.
I think what's key in this one to notice is these 35 virtual lessons a week that they have to get ready. It's a lot.
For 2 grade levels.
For 2 grade levels. It's just a lot.
So they had to continue on to another slide.
Because they have a lot.
I'm across the hall from the special ed teacher at the middle school, and her door is closed all day long, creating videos on live chats or meets with students, and she is constant. So that's her right there at CMS. So then for 5th grade, right now, this is our day, starting at 7:30 with our first meet at 7:55. And it is nonstop meets, trying to do some live discussions and teaching, collaborating with teammates, getting back on for more meets in the afternoon, and then trying to get materials ready for at least the next day. We've been trying to get ahead, but in all honesty, we are keeping our heads above water by being a day or 2 ahead at this point. I don't mean to brag.
So this is kind of how my schedule is, the same as the 6th through 8 teachers. We are on a synchronous schedule, which means we are on a Google Meet for each class with the bell schedule. You know, it's fast paced. I mean, that 30 minutes, it flies, and then you're on the next meet and the next meet and the next meet. And then from 1:15 to 3 p.m., so we're on meets, and then from 1:15 to 3 p.m., I'm running virtual office hours, having appointments. I mean, it takes every bit of that time, and I'm usually there past 3 o'clock now, you know, but that's neither here nor there, but it takes every bit of that time just to get ready for the next day. So,
and I think what I've just noticed that is missing so far is the grading. Going back and looking at the work and commenting, and you know, I'm used to going through a stack of papers, being able to write a comment, kind of getting a rhythm. This is click here, click there, click here, now put it here. I mean, it is so time consuming, and I just realized I'm not sure that there's a whole lot of grading and just giving some kind of feedback to the kids. I mean, this is not the kind of feedback we want to be giving. We want to be talking to them and discussing work with them, but to give them something.
So at the high school, it looks similar to at the middle school. We arrive by 7:30. Many of us arrive before 7:20. We start our first Google Meet at 7:45. We synchronously meet for all of our class periods for 35 minutes each. And then we have a 30-minute lunch. Some teachers are even working through their lunches, meeting with students, because that's when it works for the students to get help, especially in some of our college-level courses. From 1 to 3, students are running virtual office hours where they're virtually available to help students. So at that time, they are helping out students. I know I usually have 2 to 3 a day that I'm helping, if not more. And then we're also using that time to assess work, provide feedback, create more engaging and interactive lessons for the next day. And most of the CHS teachers are creating their own videos, their own lessons, their own activities. Different from the elementary schools, we don't have teams necessarily. We don't have a whole 3rd grade team, teaching, picking a different subject. We are having to create them all and prepare and assess for around 150 students each. And for some teachers, we're continuing working into the evenings at home and on the weekends.
And that's across the board.
Yeah, that's across the board.
Well, I think it's a little different. I'm going to not necessarily jump back to the slide that was K4, but your K4 teachers aren't used to that. Your K4 teachers don't departmentalize. I teach every subject to my kids. I know exactly where they are. I know when I need to speed up. I know when I need to slow down. I know when I need to pull these kids back into a small group. Now I really kind of only know what they're doing in math because that's my subject. So I need that time to talk with my team to figure out, okay, how are your kids doing in math? Do I need to slow down with my math lessons, or are we full speed ahead? Okay, my kids aren't getting this reading lesson. What can we do to make sure you teach something remotely for my kids to understand? So the team kind of PLC time is becoming ever so precious to us K4 teachers. Probably to everybody, truthfully.
So going back with a hybrid model where we're going to have students in the classroom and remote, this is going to then take all of the things we've been doing with remote and adding a whole nother layer to it. We're still going to be teaching those live classes for those 35-minute periods, but then we're going to have 5-minute passing periods in between that. We're not only switching meets to get our remote learners still into where they are, we are now answering student questions that are in person, attempting to answer student questions that are online if we can see them. We are monitoring the hallway, welcoming students into our room, checking emails to make sure we're not missing something. If we have time, going to the restroom, and we're not sure what we're doing with desks. Are we going to have time to wipe down these desks? Are we having students wipe down these desks? Where's the safety and the cleaning? And then again, lunch, and then our time to run virtual office hours, which will be helping our students, like we said before, in our normal remote time. And I'm going to speak for myself as a science teacher and for vocational. Planning lab days for these A and B kids who are going to be coming on different days. This is making prepping for multiple preps. It's not, so to try to explain this, I teach 3 different science classes. So therefore, in the hybrid model, I am now going to be planning for 9 different lessons each day because I'll have my full remote learners, my hybrid A and my hybrid B. So if I have a lab that I'm doing, the lab A group, the A group shouldn't be allowed to not do the lab because they're an A group, while then the B group gets to do the lab and vice versa. So we're talking about now 9 different things for each day.
So I guess what we're asking for is support. We see all the different things that have to happen for a safe return. I guess I have a small question for all of you, which is what have you done to maybe educate yourself into what teachers are doing and what this looks like for us in our buildings and so forth? You're about to make a very important decision. What kind of things have you done? Have you talked to people to educate yourselves? People being teachers. People being teachers.
Well, I talked to a teacher and asked a lot of questions, and I've gone back to Mr. Brody and Dr. Castelli and asked them questions based on what concerns the teacher had.
Excellent. Have you heard some of the same concerns? Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
I've actually talked to several teachers and gotten a lot of good feedback. I've been
I've read every email from every parent, every teacher. I read your whole summary, word for word. I didn't miss one email, one word. I gave everybody the attention they deserve. I've done a lot of research. I've been on the CDC side. I've been doing a lot of homework on this, probably far more than I ever intended to. So,
Thank you.
and I got some ideas.
You got some ideas. Great, so do we. Okay, so, you know, we feel our teachers want to be safe. You know, while kids are asymptomatic in this, there are some teachers who are concerned about their own families and family members that they take care of, or, you know, just feeling that they are safe and protected if we have students back in the building. We are asking for asynchronous Fridays, just to give us the time to create these lessons for this hybrid model that we are possibly going to. You've seen the hours it takes to create these lessons and to, you know, provide that for the remote learners. You know, we still need to make connections with those remote learners. We can't let them fall by the wayside because we have kids in person. You know, we're used to having them in person. We are going to make those connections. We are going to have that with them. But for the remote learners, it's still going to require that time to give them the quality education that they need as remote learners.
And more than just like really what we're asking for is just time to prepare. I mean, going back to school with kids would be like the first day of school all over again, and usually we have 2 or 3 days to get ready for that. And
or
the whole summer. Correct. And I mean, when we, like I said, when we did an about face on August 10th, we were really trying to go all in to make sure that this started out successfully, so that kids could have strong remote lessons and that we could do the best job possible, because we know it's not, I mean, we know it's not an ideal situation. We get it. And we just want to make sure it's safe. You know, we anticipate that students will still remain in a remote setting, and we want to make sure those kids get a quality education too, and it's just not going to change when kids come to school. And I just want to be confident. You know, I've had, of all the people on this board, most of you I have had your children in my class. And more than anything, I want your kids to be safe. No matter what we're thinking about the virus and what it does to kids and whatever, more than anything, I just want your children to be safe. I want to welcome them with open arms, and I want them to feel safe, and I want us to be able to make the connections we can to these kids, because if you know me and you know my teaching and you've been in my classroom, you know there's nothing I love more than having those kids with me. But it would feel unforgivable to me if something happened to one of those kids. They are like my own, and I just want to make sure that when they're back in this building, it's a safe place for them to be.
So there's a lot of things that go into the time realm. Parents are going to need time to make their decisions. Once those decisions are made, teachers are going to need to get those lists so that they can arrange desks, make decisions for their classroom. Principals are going to need those numbers to possibly have lunch ready or have scheduling concerns. So it's not something we can just start tomorrow. It's just not. So I think we are asking for a possible start date.
Well, I mean,
not tomorrow.
For sure not tomorrow.
But we are going to need time. Parents are going to need time to, maybe they have, you know, are we going remote or am I not going remote? Some parents might make that decision like that. Other parents might need, you know, I got to talk to grandma, I got to talk to daycare, I got to talk to a lot of people before I can make that decision. So, time before we do this. Also, you know, just because we make a decision today, you make a decision today, doesn't mean that you are stuck with that decision for the rest of your lives.
obviously, you made the decision to stay fully remote for 9 weeks, and we're back here discussing it now. So this decision that is made today doesn't necessarily have to be one that is forever. So if we take a baby step, or a couple baby steps, and then in some time we figure out, hey, we can take some bigger steps, it's revisitable. Or you might need to say, well, we need to back up.
Carla, if I can interrupt you, we didn't vote to go all remote. That was a decision. I'm not trying to throw the administration on the bus, but that was not a school board decision. That was an administration decision that they were fine to make. But it's not that this body voted to go all remote. We voted for the hybrid. And the situation changes where the administration felt it was best to go that way.
And
Just to clear it, again.
But it can change.
Right.
It can change. Okay, questions for us?
I have a question. I'm sure you have a time period in which you would want the start to happen. What is that date? I mean, you've got to have something.
I can see your smile.
I did.
Yeah.
I think the teachers could have this ready to go by the 28th.
Of the
September. Sorry.
Just
Yes.
making sure.
September. For sure by the 28th of October, but that's how that'll be fun. But yes, that's what we are suggesting.
I guess since we have all the union representatives here, I'm probably going to be yelled at for asking this question.
A little bit.
We have all the union members here, you guys are the leadership. I know you guys mentioned school nurses being an issue, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I think we need not just, I think our current requirement just an EMT, or there's really not a medical requirement.
This is the CEA, though, they're not.
They're not,
They
yeah.
only have one teacher that's underneath their contract.
Yes.
We have certified school nurse that's under the contract, and then the other school nurses are under the CESTA contract.
Okay.
But I think what we're trying to get by is we don't have a medical professional
I agree.
in each building, which,
Whether they're
as a
not-
parent, is terrifying.
Yes,
Right.
whether they're in our union or the assessment union.
Especially in this environment with COVID, I personally think we need an RN in every building. But I guess there's some logistical problems.
There's some
Can't find it.
certifications.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We don't have any applicants?
you can't pay $10 an hour to have an RN.
We're in the process of negotiating the contract.
But that's a different group than
That's a different.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to throw you in the bus.
No, okay.
I just figured I'd take advantage and have one of you.
Hey, I get it. Any other questions for us?
Whatever. I also agree, the feedback that I had from the teachers that I spoke to echoes exactly what you guys are saying. It's the double duty. And I agree wholeheartedly. We're asking you guys to do 2 full-time jobs with in-person and remote. Do you have any idea how many students you feel, the union feels, that is going to participate all remote versus the all-in?
No idea. No, I wish we knew. That would make it a little easier to know that, but.
Exactly.
Dr. Castelli?
If we go by the data that we had for registration, that was 293 total in the district. Obviously, that may change. We are going to, whatever we decide and however this moves forward, I have created a form that will be published in Skyward, and the parent would just go underneath their student's profile and select, just so that we can have an updated count. Because some of the people that I saw who were selected remote have also now decided that they are just homeschooling, so that might be different. So I just think we need a better picture of where we're at. But there was 293 at that time.
So that's roughly like 12%?
We are, no, it's more than that. We have, yeah.
It's a long time fighting math.
No, we have like, we have 1,800 kids.
Okay.
And I think what you said with having 2 full-time jobs goes with why we would like to have the asynchronous Fridays. So the students wouldn't come in the building, obviously the teachers would, and we would still push out lessons similar to what it is now. So we would push out remote lessons on Friday.
I guess my train of thought is if we have, let's reverse that number. So we're having 87% of our students be in person. And I understand the IEPs, they need special attention, and that's great. We want to make sure they get that. But for the people that just are scared, don't want to have other issues at home that they don't want to expose them to, I have no problem with that. But I guess my concern is we're spending half of our resources on 13% of the kids and half on 87%. And I think we're kind of shortchanging those kids. I would rather, and I don't know how the union feels about it, but I'd rather see a couple teachers, depending on if we take out 13% of our teachers and have them do all remote, let you guys concentrate on all in person and not do the double duty.
Well, it wouldn't work like, well, I teach Spanish, and we have 3 Spanish teachers in the whole district, and we can't pull a Spanish teacher to be just doing remote. It would never, it would be impossible.
We can't apply everything to K through 12. We can deal with K through 5. I don't think they're in Spanish yet, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
They probably should.
Carly tries to come down, we don't let her.
Right.
The issue
They
is
lock
if
the door.
An all-remote person, though, my fear would be is if we assign, like, we've got five second grade teachers, and we assign this one to be all remote. That makes these class sizes all go up. It depends with how many people are remote or in, but my bigger concern is, what if these people start to say, you know what, it's working, I want to go back in. Then these classes get up, and how many does this go to until we change it? I also have a concern that if somebody in this classroom is on quarantine, I would like to have that person in that classroom on quarantine get their remote learning from this teacher that they've got the relationship with. But if we've got one person doing remote learning and we're not giving the teachers time to plan for the remote learning while they're in the day, then anybody that's on quarantine here for those 14 days or sick will need to transfer over to this teacher and then transfer back. And it's just, I understand what you're saying when you look at it from a percentage standpoint, but when you actually think about how the school works and what the subs would be and the classes coming in and the grade levels and at the middle school and high school with the certifications, it's just impossible. But at the elementaries, I think it's ill-advised. I see a lot of really hard.
And the teachers would support that.
You also, as we do this, as we said, when we get done with the thing tonight, we're going to continue to work with the CEA and start building back more and more time, more and more. We need to do this, I think, wisely, slowly, and we just can't have everybody come in tomorrow and have everybody in and no more remote learning. I will say, my experience so far, I'm hoping there's a vaccine and we don't have remote learning options next year. I mean, it really does make a complex situation. Do you have any more questions for the CEA?
Well, also my comments are not derogatory towards you guys. You've done a fantastic job with what you have. I'm just we have to find a way. There always has to be something else we can do, but.
Keep throwing out ideas. Tammy, do you have one more?
I would like to see maybe how would, as an alternative to what Greg's talking about, maybe low live remote learning so that the kids can get longer hours. The kids at home, it's not going to be as interactive, although you could have, depends on the grade, one kid could be in charge of answering the questions that kids at home have. But the camera, we may have to get an extra camera for each room, but the Chromebook could be on the teacher and then the camera on the board. And then the at-home kids are learning at the exact same time that the in-class kids are learning. And they can get longer hours and not just get out at 12:30.
I think that 5th grade is leaning towards that. With K4, we were thinking that we didn't want to hog-tie parents that much and say, hey, math's at 9:30, get there.
And it could also be loaded or saved onto a local drive and then uploaded into Google Classroom, and they could watch it with the parents later in the day.
They could. It would probably need to be edited.
Yeah, we can't record any there can be no kids in the recording, there can be no, because of FERPA, so it's got to be.
Correct. So, but I know that that's, I mean, if one camera's on you guys and one is on the board, no kids are going to be in that.
Sure.
And then you can't say John Doe, you'd have to say, hey, John, don't do that, instead of using their last name, but I doubt EA uses their last name.
I mean, that's all part of our time
That
to
would-
figure that out.
Correct.
How
Like-
is that going to work? So I think that you're right.
But that
We're
might
not
take
disagreeing.
But that might take away from the extra remote time where you're having to do.
Well, that takes away from the video creation,
Right.
but not the meetings and the email answering and all the rest of it. So
Right,
it does
because
take a
when you're
little
not
bit
when you're not
that.
in the live environment, I think you would still need to offer that time to students who are at home, like that one-on-one Google Meet, just so that you can, have some time to talk with the kids and build some rapport with the kids.
Sure.
And
And your K4 teachers don't want to have live instruction only because of the distractions that there are. I mean, while you're teaching, Lisa's over here playing with her pencil. I'm going to come stand over here by Lisa, try to get her to not do that. And there's just a lot of distractions that we deal with that would probably need to be edited out. There's just going to be an editing end of it, so it'd almost be faster for me to do the 10-minute, 15-minute lesson.
The camera's not going to follow you. It would just be.
No, but then I'm not there, and I'm going to, what if I need it? What if Lisa's not just playing with her pencil, and I need to address some other kind of issues, or there's an outburst because we have some children that are on the spectrum in our classroom, and so if there's an outburst, what if someone decides they don't want to do this assignment today, and they shove all the papers off their desk?
Well, no, we'll see that.
I know, but there's just, I think your teaching staff is more comfortable doing the videos after that, so we don't have to worry about that.
Some of the complaints with the remote learning has been the asynchronous with the kindergarten through 5th grade, and the synchronous 6 to 12 seems to be going very well. The problem with with going synchronous in the little guys is some of our kids, they don't have their parents there at that moment to log in, and there's another issue with that. And so those details at the grade levels and at the buildings, we need to work with the administration and the teachers and get those hammered out. What we need to do is really kind of look from the big picture and say, how much are they coming back, and what times are they coming back, and focusing on those things. And then I'll guarantee you there's going to be issues. This is a complex situation, and everyone has their own solutions, and everyone has their own ideas, and what we need to do is listen to all those, and have subcommittees that work on that. But right now, I think what we need to do is focus in on what days are we going to be in session, and how's that going to work.
Albert, we can deal with who videotapes when at a later date.
It is something that the people need to it's hard to learn without that direct back and forth. It is. And that's, I think, why we're here tonight looking at how we can get kids back in school.
And one of the things that I've heard from several parents is their kids are being knocked off the internet at home. And then because the classes aren't being recorded, they're really having a struggle. So if there's a possibility that we can start recording and they can have a playback, that would be very helpful for a lot of families because they're missing big chunks and sometimes they try to log back on and they can't get on.
I've had some students that then come to my office hours. They contact me, hey, Ms. Clayton, I missed. I was like, perfect, come to office hours. Like today, I had a student. We met during office hours and I got that student all caught up and on that student's way. So.
And that's where I think that remote learning for the older kids, I know it's not ideal, but it is a lot more easier. The older kids can go to the office hours, they can ask their own questions, they can take that initiative. They might not like it socially, but it's at least simpler than trying to deal with the kindergarten, first, second graders on the instruction.
So we're looking at a separation between K through 5 and 6 through 12. Mainly because of after periods. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's as we listen to a lot of things.
You have questions?
Well, unless you want to just pull up a chair, I don't know.
Holler at us. Right over there.
I kind of just wrote up this little thing because I wanted to make sure that these points get said. The complexity of the situation, and everyone having their own solutions, and everyone having their own ideas about the data and everything, it makes it hard. The fact of the matter is, schools in this region are coming back into session. Kids are going back to the schools and they're getting that in-person learning, and so they're doing it safely. It's time. So tonight, the decision on specifics will be made.
It's not, and I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry. It's not just time. It's looking at our local health department's data as well. Just like some of the folks have brought up here. I mean, you've been working with our local health department and looking at that data. So
Mrs. Havens brought up a bunch of questions, and there are some concerns with the number of our positivity rate and whatnot and all these numbers, there's people that will say that our numbers are worse now than they were when we went all remote. However, we were going to be hybrid, and a week before school started, Mr. Wagner called. Thank you for being here, Mr. Wagner. He called and he said, I don't recommend it. And we went with the health department's recommendation. Other schools didn't. At first, I was frustrated with those other schools, but I learned that I could watch them. We could learn from them. Mr. Wagner's been watching them a lot closer than I have. But we made that decision because the recommendation from the health department said we had concerns. At this point in time, I know it's not the 9 weeks, but we're making this decision because Mr. Wagner said that he feels it's safe to return. And so, what's going to happen tonight is we've got to set the specifics. Then tomorrow, we'll send out an email explaining those specifics to the parents. Parents will then state their desire to have students return or remain remote. We're really not going to know where we're at until we know exactly how many people are remote, how many people are in person. And a lot of the fears of, I can't do both of this. Teaching a classroom of all remote, it's a lot of work. We don't know what it's going to be like teaching 2 all remote and 22 in the classroom. Or, it's a different thing. I get the trepidation, and that's why we need to move slowly. But we're going to be teaching in person and in remote. And but once we have those numbers, we can figure out the bus routes, we can figure out the seating routes, we can figure out the lunches, we can get Eagle Zone staff back, because we have to provide Eagle Zone, because it's going to be a shortened day for the whatnots. But until there's a vaccine, we're going to be teaching remotely and in person. And that's going to have us challenges. But we've had good conversations. We don't always agree. Sometimes we agree and then one of us changes our minds. It happens. As we learn more every day, it's like it's a new situation. And so I do want to be clear on a few things though, because people have been calling me and saying, hey, that school's all in, why can't you? And like the schools that are all in, some attend regular hours. I mean, they're working their normal school day. But they're a hybrid and they've got Wednesdays off, and there'll be Freeburgs in that situation. So they're all in, they teach a full school day, but they've got a full day for remote learning as well. Redbud and Valmeyer are the 2 that are all in. But they've got an hour or an hour and a half at the end of each day, Monday through Friday, where they get remote learning time. We're going to need remote learning time for the teachers. And right now, what we did was we came up with a plan for a hybrid instruction. Hybrid has its pros, it has its cons. We are in a unique position because we were going to start hybrid. We started all remote. And I think our teachers did a great job doing something that we all thought was going to be impossible, build those relationships through the online. And it's had some successes and it's had some less than successes, but overall, I think that it's been a great experience. Tonight is the first step, and we'll continue to work with the CBA to start building back more time as we learn more and we see what's working, what's not working. Do they need more time to upload the videos, or do they need more time in the classroom and not worry about the videos so much? Can they tape themselves while they're teaching? Can they not tape themselves while they're teaching? Those are all things that we're going to need to work out, but we should do it with the kids in school. And I hope everybody's patient with us during that process. It's a huge learning curve. But I'll tell you what, I'm new to Columbia. This is my first year here. The teachers here, I applaud all of them for handling the curve the way that they have. It's been fantastic. The goal, as everybody said in this room, best education balanced with the safety issues in mind. Mr. Wagner's here to address any numbers issues regarding safety. But administration believes, and this is a lot of conversations, and I know that the elementaries, they'd like to see that asynchronous Friday. I still like the Monday through Friday option. Really, there are 2 options. The hybrid had the students coming 8 to 1:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday was all asynchronous. you know? If we bring back the elementary kids, we could do it Monday through Thursday, 8 to 1:30, and have Friday off. Let me rephrase that. I've corrected so many people that have said that. It's not off. It's asynchronous instruction. And that's the key thing, is we could have that set up. I think it would be better to go 8 to 12:30, Monday through Friday, with all the kids, and it'd be a shorter time, but you're 5 days a week. Ironically, that would add up to the same amount of time for the remote learning and for the in-person learning. That's where we're at. We're trying to get to this point where we agree this is the amount of time for in-person learning and this is the amount of time that we had for remote learning. And then we'll work back and forth, bargain, if you will, the impacts of how we can better this education for our community. So I would suggest K-5 returns Monday through Friday, and that would be with all the students. K-5, we're skipping hybrid, because Mr. Wagner says that looking at the elementaries that are all in, we can do that safely. Yes, you'll have a little bit of social distancing issues, but when he looks at his contact tracing, it shouldn't be an issue. And I would suggest that they're Monday through Friday, all students from 8 to 12:30. This allows the exact number of remote learning minutes as the hybrid plan. Actually, by bringing the kids in, it increases our in-person learning. 6 to 12, because of all the passing periods, I think we need to return to the A, Monday, Tuesday, B, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all remote hybrid model that we had started with from the get-go. They'll be 8 to 12:30 as well, exactly as we planned over the summer. I would recommend that we start this on September 28th. There are a lot of concerns, and really, today I just ordered a bunch of plastic dividers. Things that we felt like we didn't really need, but as the teachers are seeing the uptick in the cases, they're starting to say, well, I think I'd like that. And so I think that we should get that for them. We do want everybody to be safe. We want everybody to be comfortable. We also want everybody back in school to get their education. Once we do that, if we started like on September 28th, I would then suggest that by mid-October, we meet with Mr. Wagner again, and we'll be in huge conversations. But we meet in mid-October to discuss, can we increase it? We'll be in discussions of tweaking the educational process to maximize the learning throughout that process. Mid-November, we need to keep revisiting this to try and build up all the kids back. I think the plan is solid. I think that we need everyone to understand, though. Parents, you need a plan for a quarantine. People are going to be getting sick. And if someone gets sick in the class, the people that are surrounding them need to be quarantined for 14 days. So you need to have that emergency plan in your back pocket as far as what you're going to do with your children when they get quarantined. I would also ask, implore, beg, anybody with a bachelor's degree that should get a sub-certificate. We're going to need you. We're going to all need to stick together and work together to get people in our buildings to cover for the classrooms when we do have people that are sick and get out. And that's the key thing. We're in this together. You know, somebody said that we're being bullied into the board meeting, and you know, those kind of comments are kind of dividing. I don't want to see us divided over this. We all want what's best for our kids. What I want to see is us coming together and doing it in a safe, logical, stepwise manner. So anyway, that was the key points that I wanted to say. From the questions and the comments, you know, we can talk about the numbers. We went all remote, and the administration did make that decision based on the health department's recommendation. I firmly believe that we as a public body should follow our health department's recommendations. He's now recommending that we can go back in K-5, hybrid, 6-12. I recommend that we follow that. I believe that we should start that on the 28th.
Can I ask what school, I'm just curious of class sizes for K-5. Just, what schools are, like, what are the class size comparisons? Like, how many students do we have in a K-5 classroom versus the schools in Monroe County that were looked at? Like, what were their, just to see if we're comparing. Are we comparing a school that has 20, like, we have maybe, I don't know, 20 kids? Are we comparing that to a school that maybe has
We're in the mid to low 20s.
And then is that what we were compared to as well? Like, does Val, like, are we looking at Goumasheimer, Redbud, are they those same sizes?
My understanding is they are the
Like,
same
they're the same.
size, they just don't have as many classrooms. Is that correct, Mr.?
Yeah, and on the younger kids, the class size doesn't really matter because there's very little social distancing done in the class. So if you have a positive case in a second grade class, you're most likely quarantining that whole class because to identify who was a close contact and who was not is probably going to be impossible. So a positive case, so this class size in those younger grades really doesn't matter that much because if somebody gets sick in there, the social distancing is typically not met in those younger grades. We have not seen many cases in the younger kids. The biggest, obviously the concern is the older kids where they're moving throughout the school, that if we have a positive case in a student in those older grades, tracking where they've gone before we lose control of the whole school, because then we start having cases pop up here, there, and that's what's would knock out the whole school. A case in a younger grade where they're only in that classroom, yes, the whole classroom would be quarantined, but we pretty much got it contained there. We know we can set them out. The school continue to operate. They come back 14 days later. Two things I want to clarify. The rollback for you guys from not opening in person to going full remote. Yes, that was solely on my recommendation, and I want to clarify with it. Not solely on my recommendation, but that was my recommendation. The reason being behind that is we had nothing to look at yet. We didn't know what was going to happen. And the other part of it, we did not have our contact tracers in place. We knew that if it had gotten into a school, we were going to lose the contact tracing ability immediately, and it was going to shut down the school right away. We needed to get, the health department needed to get the contact tracers up and running, along with seeing what was really happening in the schools. So now we feel that, no, there is no difference. In fact, our numbers are higher than they were when you started as far as positive cases. But we feel that now, looking at what's happened in other schools, seeing what's happened in our parochial schools and in Valmeyer, knowing when the cases come up, we feel we can do a good job of locking it down into a small population, taking out maybe a few students at worst, taking out a whole classroom to quarantine and still allowing the school to operate. Where at first, before we knew we would lose it right away. We didn't have the capability, I didn't have the personnel hired yet to do all the contact tracing that was needed. So now I think we can do that, and I think you can safely bring it back. And on the other side of that is risk versus reward. At first, we weren't hearing all these problems with the kids, it was summertime. No real mental health issues with the kids and everything. We thought, just move them on into, remote learning, no problems. Now, we start seeing more and more of these issues with the ability for them to learn, their mental health issues and everything. The risk is still there, but the reward is much greater to bring them back in person than what the risk is. So yes, and he's completely correct on the recommendation of the health department now is to bring the students back in safely, older kids taking a little bit at a time, and I'm not talking long periods of little steps. If you give me 2 weeks at one stage before moving to the next one, I'll know what's going on. That whether or not, no, yes, go ahead, let's open it up a little more, or no, we need to stay right where we're at because we're right there on the edge, or hey, we need to do something else because we're about ready to lose control of it. So, we're going to be watching all of that, but it is time to bring them back as much as you possibly can. Now, of course, I don't know anything about the teaching part of that and what's possible for you guys to do, but yes, the recommendation is to bring them back as much as possible right now.
So you'd be comfortable with K-5 all in?
I think we can control any type of issues that would occur K through 5 all in.
You know, with shortened days or
Right.
possibly even the Friday asynchronous, and then hybrid 6/12.
Yes.
Can you give us an example? Let's say a high school student does come down with it. What would happen?
Anybody, the official term, anybody that's been within 6 feet of that individual for more than 15 minutes has to quarantine. And that's where the tricky thing comes in. You know, if you have a full school where, you know, everybody's moving around, we're going to have a very difficult time tracing that person's movement to where we can get the people quarantined that need to be quarantined before other people start spreading it. And that's why the hybrid model just makes it smaller. We can hopefully track their movements a little bit better and get the people quarantined that need to before we lose control. What we're really concerned with is when we start having when we get a positive case, and we're not too sure that really where that person was at, and then we start seeing, you know, a week later we start seeing positive cases pop up here, there, then we've lost it. And once that starts happening, then the only option is to shut it down for 14 days, which isn't horrible. I mean, you know, and then you can bring them right back. But that's if we lose control, and I'm not guaranteeing we're not going to lose control of some school at some point. But even then, losing control of the school, I will know very rapidly when I think we've lost control of the school, and that's when I would inform, hey, you know, something needs to be done. We're about ready to have this thing blow up and have a bunch of illness, you know. But I think right now, I think we can stop that from happening, you know.
And let me be clear on this one, because I want to make sure everybody understands. If the health department recommends that we close a building or a classroom or whatnot for 14 days, as the administrator, I will make the executive decision to do that. We won't need board action on that. But in 14 days, they will be coming back in. And so, you know, one of the questions I have for the board is, do you then allow people to opt out again? And I think that what would need to happen is people are going to need to be able to opt out into an all-remote environment based on, you know, if somebody in their family gets diagnosed with cancer and they realize they don't want to put that at risk, they should be able to pull the child out and we can do an all-remote for them. And so, you know, it's going to be tough that first 14 days and people are going to not like it, but hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, they might not decide to come back. I don't know.
The health department is only an advisory. I'm only advisory to school boards. The only instance would be a full-blown outbreak where I thought that there was no option. I mean, that would take, you know, then I could step in and actually physically, the health department does have the authority to close the school. It would probably never happen. It would be up to the superintendents and everything to close the school on the advice. Hopefully it would never get to the point where I'd have to be screaming saying, you gotta close, you know, so.
And then this would be a follow-up for Mrs. Clayton. At high school level, do the kids sit in the same desks every day for their class? So that contact tracing would be much easier? Like, do all of your kids in your class sit in the exact same seat? Or could we? If they don't, could we?
Yeah, that would be if they have assigned seats.
So that would probably be important to assign seats.
And listen, that's under, if you look under some of the Illinois State School Board guidelines for seating and everything like that. If you don't have assigned seats, and I went through this with Jabot, what I would suggest the teachers do at the start of each class is just snap a picture of the classroom. We can always track it back. You can do it, the teachers can do it on their phones as long as they're their private phones.
I think that would help for contact tracing.
But, because, yeah, Jabot did not have seating. It was either the teacher writing down where everybody was sitting or a picture of the seating in each class. That way we can always go back on this date who was sitting where, you know, and track it down. So anything you can do through the school day to tell us who was next to who for extended periods of time. I'm not worried about who's passing who in a hall, who's lined up behind the other person in a hall for 5 minutes or something like that, because it's that 15-minute issue that we've got to deal with.
I'm in favor of teachers having assigned seats and following that on a daily basis.
That definitely is the best. That way we can always go back and track who's where.
Consistent.
Yeah, and we'll have it on the buses probably day 2. I mean, day 1, day 2. We're just gonna slow it down, so we have to.
Well, and that's another thing too, you know, in the very beginning, we asked parents, hey, can you help out on the buses by maybe bringing the kids to school and picking them up, just to help with the load? Are we gonna ask that again if they can help out?
Yeah, I believe so.
That'd be great. And another question, you said, so you just need a bachelor's degree to get a sub certificate?
Yes.
Because we may need that, like you said, that would
Yes.
be great.
Anybody that- you go to the regional office and go through it, so.
Okay.
For volunteer.
No. I mean, I don't know if that'd be a conflict of interest, but.
Absolutely not.
But that may be
Put Ms.
something
Hines on
that,
your list.
you know, to make sure that we do have enough subs, because we were talking today and you said that we have one sub at the high school level.
Mr. Reeves, is that correct? We still have one sub at the high school?
One sub that's confirmed that they will sub for us.
It's the same as mine.
And it's the same person
It's
as
the same
yours.
person.
So we're
Oh,
splitting
it's
between
the
the
same.
middle school and high school, one sub. When I say I'm beseeching everyone to please get sub certified if you can. You
That
know,
will be very helpful.
how many high schools have gone down because they can't get subs?
That's one of the biggest problems, yeah, is that the keeping the teachers in, and especially in the lower grades, because like I said, it's almost impossible for some of those lower grades for the teachers to be, you know, high school, it's not too bad, teachers in the front of the room most of the time, is not within that 6 foot of students, because they're teaching. Lower grades, it's almost impossible. So that's, but there again, the good thing with that is, if there's a positive in the lower grade class, most likely the teacher and the whole class are going out together. So that's a little bit different. You know, there's going to be cases. We're going to have cases. We're going to have people that get sick. There's no question that we're going to have cases in the school. It's how quick can we isolate them, get them locked down, and get them, you know, get those people quarantined so it doesn't spread throughout the school. Teachers, we're not seeing a whole lot of issues with teachers. Younger grades, we're seeing almost no issues. Most of those students that we're quarantining on the younger grades are due to a parent being positive, meaning they brought it home from work and now the household. And if you look at the Illinois State School Board, one member of a household is positive, the kids have to be out of school. There's all pretty cut and dried the guidelines on the asymptomatic, symptomatic for school age when they can come back and everything. The school board's done a pretty good job of setting those guidelines and everything like that. So, you know, the younger kids, like SPPS, we've had a couple students out because brother was positive or something like that, or, you know, an older brother was positive coming back from college. But we've had no real issues, and I can tell you right now, SPPS does not have the social distancing at the younger grades. They've done what they could, but they don't. Now, Jabot, that's a smaller school, a lot more room. That's one that's why I worked with them before they went back. They have their desks 6 feet apart in every single classroom. Meaning if we had a positive in Jabot, it would just take out that one student that was positive. That's not possible in most schools.
No.
It's not possible during lunch either. Jabot was. I mean, and lunch is going to be the biggest sticking point to getting back to full time in school, is getting the 50, till that 50-person capacity goes away. You know, that's going to be tough. You know, you got to try to figure out some unique areas to spread those kids out for their lunch periods.
Right now, it would be 8 to 12, 30, all in. I mean, that would be, we're still thinking administrators would grab and go, correct, for lunches at that level?
Yes.
So we'd be across the board, grab and go lunches.
Brownberger.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of schools are going to.
So you see the classrooms in that way, they'll come to the cafeteria. No, they take and leave.
No, they go, it'd be at the end of the day. So they take it, and they go home, and if they're Eagles only, we eat here and we
That's what a lot of schools across the state have gone to, just because they can't. The lunch is just, we get one positive case in the school, and it would take out the whole school because of the lunch period.
If you
So-
do the Monday through Thursday, 8 to 1:30, and then the asynchronous with the K-5 on Friday, you would be dealing with a lunch in there. But if it's a 8 to 12:30 Monday through Friday, then it'd be a grab-and-go lunch for the elementaries, and would be a little bit safer that way.
Yeah, the lunch period is going to be, is a problem, because when we have a positive, tracking the movement of the student during the lunch period, or something like that. Now, maybe on the little kids, you could keep them in classrooms kind of in
We actually discussed a seating chart at lunch where they'd be sitting next to the people that they sat with at the classroom, which...
Right, and that's the only way to do it, you know. And no recess, no outside, you know, it's just lunch. Because that's where you run into problems, and that's what the problem with the older kids too, is, you know, you're going to have them going all over the place.
So with recess, I think at ICS what they're doing is they're keeping like the second grade class all
Yeah.
together, but
Right.
in this area of the schoolyard. And then that other second grade class way over there. So would that be possible?
Yes, that's perfectly
If they
fine.
keep the class together?
So the whole thing you gotta be thinking about is, you know, just keeping groups together as groups so that when one group has to go out, it doesn't make it that bad. You know, the other thing, we've got to remember, this is long-term. We're going to have to come up with something long-term. The vaccine's going to be available, and probably before the end of the year, not readily available to everybody, but by the start of next year. The problem is it's a vaccine. If we're lucky, it's going to be 70% effective. If we're unlucky, it's going to go down almost to 40 to 50%. And then you have one-third of the population not taking the vaccine.
So do you think that next year schools will be still providing a remote learning option?
I think you're going to have to. I don't know what, I don't see how you're going to get away when you're quarantining somebody for 14 days. What are you going to do? There's got to be some option, because you may not only be quarantining that one person that's sick. You may be quarantining a whole second grade class, or at least the portion of the classroom that maybe was unvaccinated.
And I think that being able to do remote learning for those that are under quarantine or are home on extended leave for some medical issue, they broke both legs or something, you know, and they can't. I get that.
I don't think it's going to be the
somebody
same.
that's going to start the school year and go through the whole school year remote, is that going to be an option?
No, I would say no. You know, no. I don't want to use remote learning like you're doing right now. It's going to have some way for the kids to stay up with their schoolwork when they're being. It's not going to be that you're trying to provide a full quality education for that 14 days. You're just not trying to. Basically, right now, if you have a student go out with mono or something like that, it's going to be the same thing. You got to find a way to get them their schoolwork, try to keep them up to speed as much as possible, you know, and then, you know, so it's going to be different, but it's still going to be around, and it's going to be a unique situation. The other thing we've got coming up here in a month is we got flu season.
Yeah, if you look at the statistics, more people die from the flu yearly than we've had COVID deaths. Do all students get flu shots?
Right.
Do all parents get flu shots? What's the difference between vaccinating for the flu and vaccinating for COVID?
Once we get some of the treatment right, and that's the other thing that we've picked up over the past 3 months is the treatments, the things that are available for people who do get really sick. You know, they've drastically improved. The doctors have learned how to, and not just the ones you hear about on the news. They've learned how to deal with it from the people who are just barely sick enough to go into the hospital, how to treat them to get them out of the hospital. When this first came out, those people who were just sick enough to show up at the hospital ended up progressing all the way to ventilators. Now they have figured out the treatments, and that's what we've picked up. So no, we're approaching, and what I think we're going to see is we are going to be approaching a flu-like scenario in the coming, you know, by the start of next year, by the middle of next year, pretty much. We're going to have to look at this just as the flu.
And so, help me understand this. So if a father came home sick, he got it at work, on, say, the first of the month, and he has a child that goes to school, we're going to quarantine them for 14 days from the first or 14 days from when he's no longer symptomatic?
It becomes really difficult with a parent that is positive, especially of young kids. The child will be quarantined for up to 25 days because if the parent is sick, the parent is quarantined for 10 days. The student's 14 days don't start until that parent gets off of quarantine, because obviously the student can't take care of himself, so the parent's taking care of it. Now, a lot of times what we've seen now, extended families, something like that, they ship the child off as soon as the dad comes home, so that student's 14 days starts from when you separate him from that parent. Or dual parent households, you know, separate, dad goes stay somewhere else or lives in the basement or something like that. So we're seeing some of that, but yeah, it can be a long time, especially for the single parent household. The single parent is positive, the student's 14 days don't start until the parent comes off of quarantine, and then the student's 14 days would start. Because they could turn up positive anytime during those 14 days.
Okay, that's what I understood.
What's your experience then with having like a fever check thing, like parents checking the kids before they leave for school, maybe logging it in the system?
Parents checking the temperature, a good idea. School checking it, it's probably not going to work.
Okay, because they make systems where the kids can like get scanned as they come in.
They do. They're just not accurate enough.
They're not.
I mean,
Okay.
they, you know, I don't want to say they're not accurate. They're not. The ones that you can afford are not accurate enough.
The ones we could afford.
They're good warning signs, meaning you can use it to pick up somebody's warning sign. But in a school situation where the kid might be walking a block, 2 blocks outside in 30-degree weather, and then comes in, by the time that scanner picks them up coming in the door, it's going to, even if they were running 100 and something temperature, it's not going to catch it. Or vice versa, if it's 100 degrees outside and somebody's been sitting outside in the direct sun, has a black shirt on, when they come in, it's going to send a notification off that that person's got a temperature. Same way, even with the handheld thermometers, depending on what, you know, if they haven't had time to get out of an extreme environment, they're not doing you any good. So yes, the parent, and no, you're not going to have 100% compliance, but you're going to have some that are checking their kid's temperature before. So it's definitely a good thing for parents to either sign off on, or I don't know what type of system you have here. If it's possible to have them check a box each morning, that's great, but that may not be possible. You know, and then what do you do when the parent doesn't check the box? You know, so it's kind of like, because I talk to workplaces all the time. It's no different than any other time of the year. Don't send your kid to school if he's sick.
Well, I think the parent check card could be really great, because sometimes the kids don't even realize they are sick. And you take that temperature and you're like, whoa, you have a fever today.
Right.
You know, that would be, nobody would know, but it could prevent something if we did.
And definitely it's something that you can put out that you want the parents to do. I don't know that that you're going to have them reporting it to you every time they do it, but it's definitely something that you could definitely stress for the parents to do. And especially on the younger kids and stuff like that, parents should be monitoring their kids pretty closely.
And then I think I just have one last question, sorry guys. Just to confirm, so you're recommending hybrids for 6 through 12 because they're changing classes and to control having to shut down the schools?
Just to see what's going on. Like I said, you mentioned it with or somebody did with the school size and classroom size. We kind of, like I said, Jabot, we're not having any real problems with it, but I can't use them as an example of what's going to go with here. So on the upper grades, a little bit slower to give me and people in my office a chance to see what's happening. Like I said, 2 weeks is all, you know, if something's going to come up, I'll start to see it in 2 weeks. That whether or not we need to go back or go forward, and we can always go forward, you know, and you can go back a step, but The hardest thing to do is going to be to bring them back and then have to go to all remote again, so we don't want to do that. We don't want to bring them back and then go, whoops, we messed up all remote. So the high school, we want to take a little slower than the grade school, because I'm fairly confident on the lower grades, we're going to be able to deal with anything it throws at us. In high school, if we went full in, I'm not too sure we could deal with what may come without taking it slow enough that I can watch it.
On hybrid for the high school, for Mrs. Clayton, would we be able to social distance and put those desks 6 feet apart on hybrid?
It would depend upon the classroom.
There's no guarantee that it works out perfectly alphabetically like we could arrange it at the elementary levels, because each class is a different combination of students. So yes, we are going A through K, and L through Z. 1 hour there might be 5 kids in the class, and the next hour there might be 14.
Same for the middle school.
And the key there is just to get as much room as possible, you know, between them. And then we will look at it on a case-by-case basis, you know, if it's, you know, 5.5 feet and we're not seeing a whole lot of spread, that person's probably not going to be required to quarantine at 5.5 feet. But, you know, if we're seeing a whole lot of spread and we're really concerned, then we'll err on the side of caution. But it's all on a case-by-case basis, and the contact tracers will all look at that and make the best decision. You know, like I said, was it 14 minutes or was it 15 minutes that you, well, you know, we've got to look at a whole lot more than just the time.
So taking, I'll say metered incremental steps.
For the upper kids, yes.
For the upper kids.
Just so we can be sure. I wish I could say bring them back just like the grade school. I'd love to do that. But I'm afraid if we do that, we may be right back to all remote very quickly because something comes up that I really didn't see, or, you know, where we go slow, we'll probably be able to stop anything, change our behavior, change the patterning of the schools where we see it's being spread, or where we're losing, where I lose, you know, we have one kid that gets it and then we realize, wait a second, we don't know who he was around for these 2 hours here because of the movement through the school. That's a problem, but it's a problem that hopefully he wasn't around too many people that we can then change, you know, as we see things happen.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a statement that I personally would like to say. So, for the record, I, Lisa Schumacher, believe that all students K through 12 should be back in school full days, every day, with masks worn properly by all teachers, administration, and students 100% of the time, unless eating or drinking. Unfortunately, with the students in 6 through 12 having to change classes and not being able to social distance properly in the hallways makes it more difficult to bring those grade levels back every day. Possibly a solution would be to have the teachers move classes instead of students, but that would not work for all classes, especially those classes with labs, PE, choir, band, art, and shop. We need to try harder as a district because students are being affected educationally, socially, physically, emotionally, mentally, and technically. Not to mention all the added stress remote learning has added to families. In one of the many conversations with Mr. Grody, I had recommended K through 5 back in person every day, all day, with 6 through 12 going the hybrid model of 2 groups which we originally had in place, and to continue work on ways to get those grades back full-time in person soon. There will be a lot of work on everyone's part to make sure our schools stay safe for all the students and faculty to return full-time in person. So stay home if you have a temp, wash your hands, and wear masks properly. I firmly believe we need to be trying hard to satisfy our taxpayers of this district. Thank you to the administration, teachers, and all other employees who have put many hours in to make CUSD 4 great. I have another question.
Can I say something? I think.
You're on,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Here we go.
Okay, I won't shout. I've been listening to everything being said and have heard, listening to the parents, to the board members, to the CEA. I don't have a prepared speech, but what I would like to say is, you know, everybody's been working hard. I did get a chance this past week to spend some time with a couple of grandchildren up in South Dakota who are both going to school remotely. And parents that say children are having a hard time focusing, we had a first grader that would come and finish a task and then run back to the playroom and then come back to the computer, finish a task, back to the playroom, and back and forth. Yeah, it was hard keeping that first grader focused. We had a sixth grader who does have ADHD, and he would start at 8 o'clock in the morning with a Zoom, do lessons and various things, and that poor kid was going for almost 10 to 12 hours a day. So I really felt like, this was a big stress. I would really like to see the kids back in school. I am in agreement that we do need to take the smaller steps and offer that remote learning at a good level to those who really feel they need it, as my kids are doing remotely because of parents that have some health issues. So, yes, I would like to see us bring the kids back, and let's start with I'm in agreement to start with the 5 days at the 8 to 12:30 for K through 5 and go hybrid with the 6 through 12 and see how it goes for a couple weeks. And if things are going better, then maybe we can start to bring those other kids back into some short days or every day and keep working our schedules. I would like us to, maybe say this is a commitment for 2 weeks, for 4 weeks through the end of the first quarter, and then wait till at the end of first quarter to make the next change. And also as to make an allowance for those that are going remote that may decide they want to come back in full time. Parents that would need to want to pull kids out to remote would not be such an impact to our classrooms. So that could, possibly happen at a shorter notice, and especially if there's a quarantine issue. But again, I've been hearing and listening. I can certainly sympathize with all sides of this whole story and see the struggles that are there. So, parents are struggling, kids are struggling, parents are succeeding. I commend those who are doing well. My own kids, I really feel like they're doing very well at this. But, everybody, all kids learn differently. There are those that are visual learners, those that have to read it to get it, those that have to have it shown to them and doing hands-on. So, having the virtual really is only one form of learning. So that's another reason I really feel like we need the kids back in the classroom. But I don't want us to jump in and make mistakes and then have to be back all remote. That's all I have for right now.
Thanks, Karen. You
I'll
had
do
something else?
another. I do.
Go ahead.
It's come up that some kids have tested positive for the antibodies. How do you feel about those kids being in? And like, would that be, could they be here every day because they've already had it, or is that only good for a
Depending
certain
on
amount
the
of time?
test, there's a whole lot of antibody tests out there that are not that accurate.
Okay.
So as far as I know, last I heard from Illinois State School Board was that no, they were not taking that in. Now, what you will end up with is kids that had tested positive and then are through their quarantine. They're protected for 3 months from anything, basically. They would not be required to go quarantine again because of a close contact or anything else.
A parent that had spoken to me had their kid tested positive, and then with giving blood at the Red Cross had shown that they've got the antibodies.
Right.
So they were wondering if they could come instead of just on the A days or B days, to come on the A and B days.
That would be up to you guys, but they would be protected from catching it and from spreading it for up to for a minimum of 3 months.
Would you be able to provide us a letter stating that this person has the proper tests and everything?
Yes, if they're Monroe County residents, we'll have a record of their test. Can't go on the antibody test, but we can go on the record of their initial diagnosis of having it.
So then are they good to stay in school 3 months and then on 3 months, they...
Well, hopefully by then we'll have a better timeline on, but yes, right
Well, it
now.
depends on when they may have been
Yeah,
tested.
right now, yeah, 3 months from, CDC right now, 3 months from the date of positive, that they
So if it was
do not.
positive in March, it would not be good today.
No.
And if they were positive, let's say July 1, that's only good for 3 months, and then at that point, they'd have to be back on hybrid.
Right, as of
Okay.
right now, that's what CDC is coming out with, yes.
I have a question. I guess the big debate now is how, I think everybody's pretty much in agreement that we're gonna bring the kids back. The big question is what times and how long and that sort of thing. My biggest concern is if we bring them back until just 12:30, these kids have to go somewhere. So they're gonna go to neighbor's house, they're gonna go to daycares, they're gonna get spread out, which means they're gonna be exposed far more than in a safe school environment.
And that is the issue with, no, I have no problem with them being here all day. The issue is with the 50-person capacity per room that the governor has put out and passed through JCAR, so it is a rule. It's not one of his things that he just said on guidelines or whatever. He actually passed the mask rule and the 50-person capacity through JCAR, making it a rule, making it enforceable for the schools to figure out a way to do lunch, basically. That's the biggest issue. No, we have schools that are doing it, smaller schools that are there all day. You know, there's nothing that says you can't be there all day, but it's just figuring out how you're going to feed the kids while they're here with that 50-person maximum capacity.
And we're making grab-and-go bags anyway for the kids to get out at 12:30. Is there not a possibility to have lunch inside a classroom if it's just sack lunches? That we don't have to come to the
Those would be a lot
cafeteria?
of the details that we need to work out as we go and we move forward, as we try and get more and more kids into the school for longer periods of time.
But then to add on to that, because if they're going to the daycares and there's more exposure afterwards, could we keep them here until 3 o'clock while the teacher is teaching the remote children?
Who's going to supervise that?
Well, they're still in the classroom, give them a book, iPad.
Not in kindergarten.
Could they have playtime though?
That's 2.5 hours, or, you know what I mean?
Well, if they have lunch.
Good math.
I mean,
I think right now what we need to do is decide, you know, is it going to be the Monday through Friday for the shortened day, or is it going to be Monday through Thursday with Friday asynchronous? I know the association would like that one more. I like the other one better. I think that's the first hurdle we need to figure out, and then we'll be working with the association to look at some of these other options as we build back time.
So if we make it Monday through Thursday, and the Friday is a remote day, or not remote day, I guess, is there no way that we can go to school 8 to 3?
We would still need time. Right now, what we've agreed to with the association is kind of this is the amount of time for in-person instruction, and this is the remote learning time. And so what we're trying to do is, as we make this change and not come back in the hybrid model as we had already agreed on, coming back with all in person, we're trying to hold those amounts of time solid until we have the classroom set up, and then we'll be working together to increase those times.
And then, in your speech and your notes, I thought you said somebody like Freebird, were they going Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday full days, and then Friday remote?
Monday and Tuesday is, I believe, Monday and Tuesday is Group A.
Yep, Monday and Thursday are Group A, Tuesday and Friday's Group B, Wednesdays are the full day remotes.
And this is K through 8, right?
For K through 8?
Yeah, your K through 8 district.
And they're until 3 o'clock, but they're 2 days a week.
Correct.
So the same number of hours at the end of the day, correct?
Yes.
For the kids.
And we, when we had done the first plan, had agreed to a little bit of time at the end of every day for the remote learning, and then because of the hybrid, we had that asynchronous Friday. So that remote learning time is what we're trying to hold right now, so that we can then move forward from there.
I was thinking you said one school was full days, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday was full remote.
No,
Okay, I misunderstood.
no, they're Wednesdays, they're full remote. And Valmeyer and Redbud are both Monday through Friday, not all day, but they've got time to be in the weekdays, so.
Are they out around 1:30?
Yeah.
Valmeyer was 12:30, the last time I talked to him was 12:30. And I think Red Bud gets out in an hour and a half or something like that early, but their remote kids are a day behind the rest of their kids too, so they've adjusted that way.
So we have no local schools that are Monday through Friday, 8 to 3?
Chivbo is, and SPPS is. and-
Public schools?
No.
Okay.
Valmeyer, I think, is an early release of some type.
12:30, they take their lunches with them.
Okay.
I guess what I'm wrestling with is I understand where the teachers are coming from. They need time to prepare and handle the remote learning, but also the parents, our working parents can't just come home at 12:30 and this is a delicate balance here.
That's why, and I'm concerned, we're gonna need to staff our Eagle Zone, because we're gonna have some people that are gonna just stay here. And our Eagle Zone staff, like you said, can we just have them stay here? Well, yeah, we've got the Eagle Zone that can watch the kids.
But then will
teachers
Eagle
are
Zone
doing
mix
stuff.
the kids and now we have an issue?
We would make sure that those don't get mixed.
Okay.
What about parent monitors? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, my mom came in and drove me crazy at school every once in a while.
Is that how it happened?
Yeah, so-
I think we have those, let's sign them up for subs.
Yeah. And I'm willing to do anything that we can do to staff this. I mean, it's because I think we're gonna have a lot of people doing the Eagle Zone. And, I don't wanna have a waiting list for it. And so we're gonna need to just staff it up and figure it out, so.
What about all the community service hours if the kids need to graduate? They can help with Eagle Zone?
Mr. Reeves, would Eagle Zone count as community service hours?
They didn't get paid for it.
And I can-
Oh, I don't need to pay them, sir.
If they don't get paid for it, then yes, it counts.
Currently, the workers all get paid, but you would be able to.
But I mean, you can make a recommendation if you did it as a high school student, that's community service.
It would be a huge community service for parents.
I think there's a lot of good ideas you can float around here for sure.
Yeah.
I think all of those are gonna take some time to work through. The consensus I'm hearing is we want kids back in school.
Yes.
To some degree. And there's a plan that appears to be workable as a first step, while some of these ideas are getting further developed, to see if they can really happen. And so we need to make a decision on at least that first step here, and keep the conversation going about the other ideas that we come up with. 'Cause there's literally an infinite number of ways to do this, right?
Yes.
And our administration and our educators and health department officials know best how to piece this all together. And so we probably need to let them digest some of the thoughts and ideas and see if they can come up with, the next step after this first step. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
And I would like to see a committee put together where you've got maybe 2 board members, a teacher from each of the schools, special ed teacher, because we really haven't talked about special ed, and some parents. All, maybe people with the opposing viewpoints to help really brainstorm and come up with some great ideas. Because that way nobody's alone in doing it, and the community has input too.
Any volunteers for the committee?
Tammy, yeah, I think that that's a good idea, and I really think that that may be also a good process for part of the 2-week review, that if we continually go through like an every 2-week review to establish, what types of steps we can grow to and can get the feedback.
I'm fine with that.
You guys can all sleep on it and get back to me as to who wants to be the other person. committee.
So two board members?
What time would you hold the meetings?
Whenever you're available.
Because I work a full-time job.
So that might be tough with the teachers if it's, meeting at 6 o'clock at night though.
I would do it if nobody else wants to.
I mean, I would do it, but I can't take off work in the middle of the day to drive for a meeting.
I'll go with the CEA tomorrow or the next day and flush that one out.
And figure out how to get two parents who would like to be on it.
Can I ask the teachers, since we have all you here, what would be your preference going Monday through Friday from 8 to 12:30, or doing Monday through Thursday 8 to 1:30, and then have Friday as a remote? And I didn't say all.
Thank you.
You're talking K-5.
K-5.
K through 5, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. So, doing a little math, if we stay until 1:30 and feed them lunch, which is a major hurdle. If we kind of work backwards, so Parkview was going to get out at 1:20, so if I take off that half-hour lunch, I'm at 12:50. The 12:30 release time is only really losing 20 minutes of instruction because we don't have to deal with lunch. So I think that the K-12, K-5 teachers would rather go 7:50 to 12:30, not have lunch, and have Friday as our asynchronous day. Until we get a better handle on all of this. Because doing two jobs it's gonna be very hard on us. And if we're only losing 20 minutes of instruction by not serving lunch, it sounds like a major headache that we're not having.
You're still serving lunch, just not housing.
Sorry, not serving it here. Thank you, Brian. Still do grab and go. I mean, the little ones, we're gonna have a snack time. 12:30 is late. I'm gonna need a snack. So we're gonna have a snack time, and hopefully the weather's nice. We can go outside, have our grapes, and have some mask off time. But realistically, if you wanted to know what the teachers would like, that would be what the teachers would like. And I don't know if it helps with busing or not, because all of us would be busing at the same time, all 4 buildings.
Yeah, I mean,
If that would help her or not, I don't know.
busing's gonna be the same if you do a 4-day, 5-day, we're all getting out at the same.
Yeah, so.
The only thing is, it's only 20 minutes a day, but I feel like parents are gonna say, well, it's already 3 hours less than or 2.5 hours less than what it normally was before.
I get that.
So then we're adding
totally
another
understand.
20 on too.
It takes us all day to do remote lessons now. It's a second job. And to ask us to do that in 2 hours, sorry, Tyler. Asking us to do that in 2 hours is rough. I think your special ed department's gonna suffer a great deal because they have so many different IEPs that they have to follow, so they have so many individual lessons that they have to create and kids they have to meet with. I don't know. I know it's a baby step, and it sounds like, oh, we're only getting this much. But in 2 weeks, we could say, hey, we could do this. Let's keep them till 1:30 and try lunch. And in 2 weeks, we could say, hey, let's try to do this on Fridays too. But I think we need to take a baby step first and see how it is. See how much we can handle. Otherwise, you are going to have some stressed out teachers. We're going to get sick. You're going to need subs, and we've already had that conversation.
Thank you. And what about IEP kids in special ed? How are we going to handle those?
You want to talk about that, Dr. Castelli?
Sure. So currently, right now, we have our students who are in self-contained, who this week started coming in 4 days a week. So depending on what we decide, then we would look at, when we had our hybrid plan that we initially started with, Mrs. Gocher had reached out to the students who had IEPs, not speech only, but other IEPs for various regions. And they were, if we were on a hybrid plan, let's say you're 6 through 12, during that plan, we gave them the option to come all 4 days. And then if we're all in K through 5, then they would be being addressed the same way. We still can't remove that though for like the remote kids. We still have some families whose children have IEPs who they have opted for fully remote. That will not go away. But we have plans for, depending on what age level and what our plan is, to walk away with.
So we know then K through 5, what about 6 through 12?
So 6 through 12, if we do hybrid, then we initially had planned, like I said, Mrs. Gocher had reached out to every family to say, do you want to do it A and B, stay as is, like everybody else, or do you want to have your child come in 4 days? And so then they gave her the feedback. So she would be following up with them to see if that is still their preference.
Okay. So right now.
Am I speaking correctly, Mrs. Gocher? Yes.
So then if we're doing hybrid, the kids would be here 4 days a week?
Yes.
Unless they want to remain.
Unless they choose not to.
It could be.
Yes, that's their choice.
And that would be until 12:30? Okay.
So let's wrap this up, but just kind of pull this together. So we talked about starting, and we'll talk about it from now. We talked about starting on the 28th. 6 to 12, attending a hybrid AB schedule from 8 to 12:30, so we got that. I guess it's down to the K through 5 piece. If we wanted to look at going at 8 to 12:30, Monday through Friday, or 8 to 12:30, Monday through Thursday, with a Friday is the asynchronous learning.
You had mentioned earlier there was an issue with starting earlier with the SAT.
The SAT, the makeup SAT for last year is scheduled for the 23rd, which is a Wednesday. And so, whatever, if we would start before that Wednesday at high school, just needs to not have school. So whatever we do, it's, the 23rd is just not going to be a school day for the high school.
It'll be an asynchronous day.
Yeah, an asynchronous day.
There'll be assignments pushed out, but there won't be live meetings like there would have normally, if we were still on remote.
And if we wait till the 28th, the high school issue with the HVAC and all, is that all going to be taken care of by the 28th?
I really would like to say yes. However, they were supposed to have a crane there this last weekend, and the rain pushed them off. It wasn't hard rain, but they thought it might have been. So they're supposed to be there again this Saturday. I don't know if they scheduled the second one. So theoretically, half of the HVAC units should have been sat last weekend, and the other half should be sat this weekend. It should be done. But the weather didn't help us any. Very few things are going our way right now.
Just a thought here. We've talked about the kids transitioning back to schools that, and especially the freshmen that are going transitioning to the high school and have never been in the building. If we would start on the 28th, would there be any possibility that either that prior Thursday or prior Friday, we could have one day of a freshman orientation and have just the freshmen come in and have them at least get to see the building or something? Just throwing it out as a thought.
Based on what was decided tonight, I've already talked about it with my office, of having a night where freshmen could come in based on parts of the alphabet and run maybe 3 or 4 different sessions, opening the building up for A through a letter, and doing that 3 or 4 sessions that one evening so they can come in and walk their schedule and then move on, and so the next group can come in. Nothing more than them being able to walk the building to see where classes are. So yes, that would be based on when we decide to come back in.
Did you get that, Karen?
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
And just talking about the Monday through Thursday versus Monday through Friday. So if I were a parent, and we were doing Monday through Friday, and we also with for parents. If we don't do that, then they have to find daycare for just Friday. So is there, unless we could do Eagle View on Friday, would we still do that? But I think one day of daycare may be
You have to do
challenging.
the busing and everything, yeah, it would be.
And lunch.
Be concerned with just having them coming to do the zone.
So then, I mean, because parents have already rearranged once, and now we're gonna be asking them to rearrange again. But then 4 days are consistent, but the fourth day would be, if we didn't do the fourth day, that will be very challenging for them. And then we're asking daycares then,
The 5th day.
the fifth day.
Yeah.
And then we'd be asking daycares who have really stepped up, or churches who have really stepped up, to still have a bunch of teachers, but just on one day. So I don't know how that would work. I don't know which way families would rather go.
If we did Eagle View strictly on Fridays, then, the transportation would be 100% up to the parents. We wouldn't run buses.
And now we're adding additional burdens on parents, I mean, it's kind of a big burden, in my opinion.
But they may be okay with that because it gives them the full day.
I don't know if we want to start doing Eagle Zone all, I mean, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning or not. I mean, it's a nice, our main business is education, you know, we provide this service after school versus, I don't know if we want to start just offering it all day. I mean, it's just.
Yeah. Well, then that makes me lean towards still being here on Friday then.
You run into lunches as well on Fridays if you started doing that. Yeah, I guess I'm still in favor of going Monday through Friday.
I think these kids know that time in class they can get. I think every minute is precious, so I think whatever we can do to get them in class for the most amount of time is, I'm actually at least, I'd like to do both completely full time, but I understand the teachers and the transition, and I'll support it as long as we continue to move in the right direction. I'm just a little scared this is just gonna be a autopilot, we're just gonna say good enough, which, again, we've said it 1,000 times, there's no good answer on any of this stuff, but
We're not gonna please everybody, teachers, parents, we're not gonna please everybody.
Well, honestly, that's why we're here before, you know, we never said for not, well, we did say that parents can make the choice for 9 weeks, and then we did all that, so that's where the 9 weeks came in. But when we first heard, or we came back, heard from John and said, okay, that's why we got together now instead of waiting another couple of weeks for our next board meeting to come together. Let's take some action. Once we hear there's some trends or some differing opinions and things like that from an authority as a health department to say it's time to come back, and that's why we're sitting here now. So
we're lucky to have Mr. Wagner.
yeah.
Thank you for coming to our meeting and answering our questions, and that's a big part of this deal. You know, it's everybody has their area of expertise. The teachers are the best educators. The administration, you're in the health. I mean, it's our job as a board to put it all together and make a decision for the overall, not to micromanage anything. But really,
From the very start, there is no wrong answer, and there's no right answer in any of this. You just got to make a decision. What you got to take in as many people's opinion as you can. Make the decision, and then we adjust as we go. I mean, there's going to be mistakes. We're going to do maybe push something too far sometime and not have the proper things in place to adjust, but we can correct it, and that's why, especially with the high school, we just need to be able to make sure we don't go too far that we just lose it, that we can correct it as we go, and I think this is the best way to start. But like I said, the other concern is, you know, like I said, you got to keep in mind that in the upper grades, 2 weeks, revisit it, you know, same way with the lower grades, you know. At what point do you go back to full school days, and the people who don't want to send their kid to school, you know, what do you do then? Do you know, tell them their only option is homeschooling or something like that? Because this virus is going to be around for a long time, so at some point, you're going to have to make the decision that school is school, that's it. So,
Well, the nice thing about doing it this way also is the parents that are afraid or worried or whatever, they make their choice to keep their kids home. We're not preventing anybody from.
Right, no, and I think that's good for right now, at least, but, you know, after the a vaccine becomes available, beginning of next year, at some point, you're going to have to make the decision that school is back and that your remote option is more or less what it is during flu season, that the teachers provide schoolwork for ill students and stuff like that, because this is not going to just all of a sudden vaccines available, this goes away. There's a whole lot of other things in there that, and you can't continue to operate with a full remote option forever.
So what I'm hearing thus far is, as regards to the K through 5, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 12:30. Is that what we're hearing thus far? So
I prefer 1:30, but I think I'm a minority here, so.
well, we still have the time to do the remote learning, correct?
Yes.
So that where the 12:30.
That's where the 12:30 comes in.
And the no lunch.
Right.
Or not,
Grab and go.
grab and go, sorry, not no lunch. Not Monday
So
through Friday.
so basically, we're providing lunch to every student before they leave the school.
If they want to,
Yeah, they will,
Okay.
yep.
And we're definitely going to look at options for Eagle View, the.
Eagle Zone.
Eagle Zone.
And there's no fee for that, correct? The lunches are free.
The lunches?
The
No, for
lunches?
Eagle Zone.
The bag lunch.
The lunches right now are still federally subsidized.
Okay, so even if we go, or when we go back, they'll still be federally subsidized, so everybody can have one first. Okay. But I think that's important because we're sending kids home and mom and dad know that they've got lunch and that it didn't cost them anything. So.
Are there any other questions from the board? I hate to even ask. I'm kidding. No, this has been great dialogue, because we need to talk through all this. So, seeing that, and from,
Of course. One more thing, just with the kids, the special ed kids who choose to still be remote, are we gonna be able to take care of them just like, it's not gonna be the same as if they're in person, but making sure that they get all the help that they need.
So like our related services are doing teletherapy, so that would continue. And then as far as, it would be the same as remote, that our gen ed teachers are doing as much as they can remotely, because we can't have them go into the houses. So it's gonna be equal, and they'll just do, just like the gen ed teachers are doing.
Okay.
But there is remote teletherapy and things like that for related services.
Great, thank you.
after we go through the motion, we get another chance to ask questions. So hearing everything that I've heard thus far, I'd entertain a motion for us to return the students to in-person instruction on September 28th, with K through 5 attending Monday through Friday from 8 to 12:30, and 6 to 12 attending in a hybrid AV schedule from 8 to 12:30. Also, we would have the option for remote learning for those parents and students who wish to choose that option.
Yes.
Greg O'Connor makes that motion. Second by John Long. I'm going to ask a question right now. Is there any other questions from the board at this time?
I can't help myself. Is there any possibility, or is it worth looking into to start the younger kids sooner and the other kids hybrid later, and then phase us in instead of having it all at once?
I'd rather just do it all at once, as far as possible. I don't see the advantage to phasing it.
Honestly, and from a parent standpoint, for those who have two, different, I would think it'd be, not speaking for the parents, but I would think it would be easier to know this is the day, this whole household's going back to school, or starting that process. That's just my thing. Any other questions? Seeing none, can you please do a roll call vote for me?
Yes. Tammy Hines. Aye. John Long.
Yes.
Greg Meyer.
Yes.
Scott Middlecamp.
Yes.
Greg O'Connor.
Aye.
Lisa Schumacher.
Yes.
Karen Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries. So we're going back to school on the 28th. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Before I go to adjournment, usually I have board president's prerogative, which I never exercise, but this time I am. I want to thank everybody who came out and spoke tonight. For those that are online that sent us emails, for those that talked on the phone with Dr. Castelli dialing up. Thank you very much to John Wagner and Monroe County Health Department. It truly does take a community and a village for our kids, and I really, really do appreciate that. We left out the teachers. Thank you very much for what you've done thus far and what you continue to do for our kids. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Everybody in one. I'll do Lisa Schumacher, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Tammy Hines. Can you do a roll call vote for me, please?
John Long.
Yes.
Greg Meyer.
Yes.
Scott Middlecamp.
Yes.
Greg O'Connor. Lisa Schumacher. Karen Anderson.
Yes.
Tammy Hines.
Great, thank you all.